Hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble live watch along here on YouTube. My name is Martin Douglas and tonight I am joined by Wilf Marshall. Wilf, how are you?
Not bad, Martin.
And I'm also joined by William Irwin. How are you, Willie?
Still can't believe you talked me into this.
He's still grumpy.
It's a Sunday night. Honestly. I've got a beer Moretti sitting in the fridge, so if at any point I disappear, I'm just going to the fridge to get a beer Moretti.
I told you about this last week. You knew about this last week.
No, but if I fall asleep live on YouTube, right, it's fine. Just let the thing go black. It's fine. I don't mind.
Right now, the link is in the description for the video that we're going to be watching. If you can't get a link to work, if you just search on YouTube as live League Cup Final 2011, the video will come up. It's from the Rangers Football Club YouTube page. Click on that and go to 4 minutes exactly, because as Wilf said, it doesn't want to watch all that pre-match shite. Isn't that right, Wilf?
That's correct, yep. We'll be here long enough for watching that nonsense.
So anybody watching, go to the link in the description, get the video up and go to 4 minutes exactly. So Wilf, just before we start, if there's anybody watching, we'll let them get all that set up. What do you remember about this game?
Not a hell of a lot. I remember it was the day after my pal got married. I was at a wedding in Kilwinning the day before. Which means my girlfriend was with me at the game rather than my daughter, who would normally travel to football with me, because obviously the girlfriend was at the wedding with me. We were in the, what stand was it? What's the main stand? What's the main stand at Hampton? Is that the west stand? That's the north. That's the south stand. So we were in the north stand, opposite the main stand, right opposite the trophy presentation, which was quite good. I remember that, and I remember the winning goal, which is about 2 hours away, so we'll talk about that a bit later on.
What do you remember about it, Willie? Because I remember you saying to me that you don't remember any old games.
No, I don't really remember it, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, it's like I've got good memory with some things, but that game just for some reason it's completely dropped out of my memory banks. I genuinely didn't remember it until Wilf told me who scored, and I was like, oh, aye, right, I remember that now. It's weird. I mean, like, it really shouldn't happen, because when you get to cup finals, you should probably remember every single game, who scored the goal, when they scored the goal, etc. But for some reason, in my mind, there's just some games that are just like completely gone. It's like I just do not remember them, which is weird because you go to as many games over the years, but there is just some that just have completely gone from my mind.
Exactly. Now, for anybody watching, remember, like I say, the links in the description. Go to it now. Go to 4 minutes, and guys, right. So when I say 3, 2, 1, and play, press play. Don't press it on 1. Don't press it after I say play. Press it on play. Right? Is that quite easy enough to understand?
Aye.
This is going to go well. Right, gents. And 3, 2, 1, play. There we go. So the game starts off with one of your favourites, Wilf, Samaras.
I'll tell you a wee thing about Samaras. At this time, this is what, 2011. So my daughter, who's now 17, would have been what, 8, 9 years old maybe. And we sit in the club. We sit in the club deck at Ibrox, and we were at a game with Celtic, an Old Firm game, and it was only she went to her first Old Firm game when she was 8, so it was only her probably second or third Old Firm game, and the teams came out and she says, "Dad, I hate him." I went, "Who?" She says, "That's Samaras. I hate him." I didn't even know she knew who he was. So from then on, I thought, okay, fair enough. So that's my lasting thing I'll always remember about him. She's right, I hate him well. So.
See, the thing about Samaras was, right, I mean, I hate to admit it because it's strange. He wasn't a good player, but when he was in form, he was actually really difficult to play against.
He was just all legs. He just all legs and hair.
I'm also trying to remember, were we the favourites coming into this?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think, if my memory serves me right, we had long been to Parkhead and lost. And there was a lot of criticism. I think, this is just me trying to kind of think back, that Davy Weir had a poor game that day. And I think we might have changed our system for that cup final. Just looking at it now. Because I'm sure
Can't-
we lost. Did we not lose like 3-0 at Parkhead and like Gary Hooper scored a couple or something like that? And
I hated that Gary Hooper, by the way. Always scored against us.
I fucking forgot about him.
I'm sure it was this cup final because a couple of weeks before it, I'm sure we'd lost at Parkhead quite heavily. I think it was the day that mind the big boy that we had on loan took out Scott Brown in a heavy tackle after 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, aye, Kyle Barton.
Centre back.
Aye.
I'm sure it was that game, and it was a shocking game for us. And then a couple of weeks later, when we played Celtic, they were supposed to be the big favourites, but obviously it proved to be otherwise.
Aye, and was this our last trophy, our last major trophy?
No, because we won the. Yeah, was it? No. When was this? Oh, hang on, what's happened here? I've got an advert.
Skip the advert.
Fucking hell, man.
This is what happens when you get quality stuff that Martin sends you.
Get me that. There we go.
Is that a good advert?
I don't ever go to see it. I had to fast forward it because you decided there was to skip adverts on it.
Well, you should have that YouTube Premium, and then you wouldn't have adverts.
Aye, okay, mate. We're going to pay for premium on
I
YouTube.
never watch YouTube. I'm 50 odd. I don't watch YouTube.
I know. Honestly, he's not thought this one through at all.
Oh no, I thought it through. It's just I could have used a two more technology-wise people to do it with.
Yeah, you could have done.
Aye, another question. Aye.
That's fair enough.
Oh.
Why?
It's a young Stephen Davis, by the way. He was absolute quality, wasn't he?
Stephen was one of the best footballers. In fact, Stevie still is one of the best footballers that I've ever seen.
Definitely. Yep.
That's why I think that, see, as long as Stephen's still able to play, we just keep giving him a year because he's just that good that he looks like one of these guys that he's naturally fit.
Yeah.
So, like, it's more with him. It's basically going to be whenever Stephen decides that he's going to retire, he'll retire. That's it. And Rangers have just got to accept that's how it's going to be. So I don't think Stephen's the sort of guy that's going to end up moving like League One in England and then maybe League Two. I don't think Stephen's that type of guy. I think when he retires, he'll want to go out at the top. I don't think he's going to want to have like another 2 or 3 teams on his career kind of thing,
I actually think if we manage to close it to win the league this year, I think he might call it quits at that.
I don't know if he maybe try and get this international record, isn't he? How many more caps is it he needs for Northern Ireland to get that?
Well, he's got the Northern Irish record now.
But there's another record, isn't he, that he can break?
Oh, Jelavic, he's got to put that away, man. He's got to put that away. See, because you just had adverts, guys. I'm at 4 minutes 25.
It's all right. We're a wee bit behind you, but it's all right. No worries.
We'll catch up then.
He's behind you.
Boss swung in and big Jelavic, man, swings it. You expect him to score that.
Just didn't catch it.
He
That's the thing of looking at that, right? The names on their shirts were really, really strange that season because they're in the lowercase. I've just noticed that.
I'm too tight to buy a shirt, never mind put a name in the back of it, so I couldn't tell you if that's normal.
I don't ever put a name in the back of it. But just looking at that there when Jelavic turned round, it was all lowercase letters. It wasn't like only it's capitals. That's very strange.
I actually quite liked that jersey because it was quite plain.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot towards it. That's why I quite liked, like the retro jersey that they put out recently in terms of the style of it, because that was the kind of jersey that, like, also you grew up, it was just a plain blue jersey. There wasn't like a lot of trim on it. There wasn't a lot of extra colour on it. It was just a nice blue.
That retro jersey would be great if it didn't have the collar on it. The fold. If it was just a white collar, just a flat white, that would be iconic. That'd be brilliant. That'd be really good.
See, that's Samaras again with his big legs just cutting through, and Edu takes him out the game. But that was the thing. I think it was you that was said it, Wilf, with Samaras. He's all legs.
Aye, just all legs and hair.
I'm saying nothing about hair.
Nah, especially yours at the moment. Actually, you look like that guy Harry out the Hendersons, like that Scottish guy. Hey, Wolf, do you remember that guy?
No.
No, I remember Harry in the Hendersons. It was like a big Sasquatch looking guy and he went and stayed with a family.
No, never heard of it.
No.
That might just be you remembering childhood experiences, Willie.
Pretty sure where I grew up in Johnston, originally Sasquatches, to be honest
Put
with
Stevie
you.
Weird in there. Jesus Christ. Stephen Whittaker, there, Wilf, right, I'll put this to you. Stephen Whittaker, obviously, after everything that happened, Rangers fans really don't have a lot of good things to say about him, and in my opinion, quite rightly so. But when Stephen Whittaker was at us, what did you make of him?
Decent player. He was a decent player. Did the job he was there to do, and I held down a place in the team. Did all right up until what happened, and that fucking stupid press conference and other things that followed with that. But I liked him as a player, and obviously we'll always have Lisbon. You know, although that game in Lisbon we were already through because we were beating them 1-0 anyway. You know, and it was just icing on the cake. But everybody was just, when I was at the game, and everybody was just screaming at him to square it. And it was like a collective, there's no way he's hitting that from there. He just kept going and kept going and kept going. It was a great goal. So we'll always have that with him. But Stephen Whittaker, I don't think ever let us down on the pitch. Off the pitch, okay, we had what happened. But at the time, yeah, great.
And that didn't even look like a foul to me there by Rogner on Jelavic. Was that a foul?
Yeah, not really. Grabbed his arm, but I wouldn't have said so.
Kyle Lafferty, boom. Oh. What did you make of Lafferty?
Lafferty was brilliant. If you could get him in his March, April, and May form. Towards the
also, actually, Wilf, we should just say, condolences actually to Kyle and losing his sister.
Shocking.
That was horrendous at such a young age.
Horrible. Oh, horrible. And it's the mark of what Kyle Lafferty is for him to still want to play. To play for his country just days after that happened. I'm sure he probably look at it that's what she'd have wanted him to do. It's probably why he did it, I would think. But it's really, really sad. To lose enemy at that age, it's just a sin. It's horrible.
Nah, it's no age at all, is it?
Yeah.
There's Walter and Ali. They were a good duo, by the way.
I think Ali's been carrying a couple of extra pounds there. Did you see that man with the t-shirt? It was looking a wee bit tight, big man. The big man must have been enjoying his dinners too much back then.
I think Ali's been enjoying his life for a while now.
Yeah, look, see at the end of the day, when you see what he's done in his football career and what he's done, after he's retired, it's amazing that after all these years, he still gets as much, like television gigs, radio gigs. It shows you the kind of person that he is, And
personality
for all these years, speaks so well. And I think the fact is, he was a decent person first and foremost. Obviously, his time as manager, for a lot of people, might be kind of puffed at times, but I think most people will always love him and respect him for what he did as a player. And they'll always appreciate that more than anything else, because at the end of the day, he was a special player, special goal scorer, and to have somebody that scored the amount of goals he did over the period of time that he did was incredible.
That's the thing, Willie. For folk of certainly my generation, we'll always know Ali as the player more than Ali the manager.
Absolutely.
Ali's first Old Firm game was my first Old Firm game. So I always remember it. He scored after 27 seconds at Parkhead. We got beat, but he scored after 27 seconds. It was phenomenal. And he just kept scoring against him. So we'll always know him as a great player. Yeah. Whereas the younger generation will only really know him as the manager and the stories of him as a player.
I think that's, as you say, that's the sad thing. But I remember when we signed McCoy for a wee while, he couldn't score. He struggled to get off the mark, didn't he, early doors in the Rangers jersey? And obviously back in the day, it was like the enclosure was like the hardcore element. And if you didn't impress the enclosure, it didn't take them long to tell you. But the photo, Big Hateley got it as well. Big Hateley went a while without scoring. He was getting dogs abuse. But I think the impressive thing with Ali was that, he had that kind of character that, sort of regardless of what happened at the game or what happened, the next game, how many chances he missed, he just kept playing. And then once he got that first goal, it was like the floodgates opened and it was scary at times, and he didn't carry the team, don't get me wrong, because we had other strikers, as we've spoken before, but, Ali's record in big games was phenomenal.
No, he always knew how to make an entrance. When he broke his leg playing for Scotland in Portugal, he came back League Cup final against Hibs at Parkhead, and he came off the bench and he scored a winner, but he scored with an overhead kick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was just Ali McCoy. He's just the way that he scores goals. You know, I mean, he would still score now. He could put him on a plaque. I think he could still be scoring goals when he's in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it's just a natural ability.
How many charity games have you seen him at? You know, at Ibrox or whatever. Or I think he's done a couple over at Maryhill at Partick Thistle in these charity games, and he always scores.
You give him a chance inside the penalty area. He's going to hit the target because he just knows where the goal is.
Right, gents. So listen, we're nearly 12 minutes in. For anybody watching who maybe didn't watch at the beginning, if you follow the link in the description and take it to about 12 minutes, or maybe 12 and a half minutes by the time you get it set up, you might be round about where we are. But what have you made to the start of the game?
It's a bit scrappy. Just not really any great chances. Nothing. To be perfectly honest, there's not been a lot to it at all.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
It's been kind of fast paced, but nothing's happened really.
Yeah, neither keepers are a save to make. Just it's just sort of feeling each other out.
Yelovich was so look. You see that? He gets in front of Ledley there and he just flies to the ground. Yelovich was so good at that.
Yelovich was something else. Absolutely
one of the smartest strikers we've had in a long time.
Mm.
He was good at winning cheap free kicks. His ability to finish first time is as good as anybody I've ever seen in a Rangers jersey. And I think the big thing that stood out to me was we obviously went to a lot of hassle to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
And there was obviously a big uproar at the time because there was kind of rumours that he downed tools, didn't he? That he was going to play for his team at the time, and we obviously got him in. And don't get me wrong, you can see the ability within. I think we signed James Beattie, didn't we? We paid £1 million.
That's right.
And then, as soon as Yelovich came in and was fit, Beattie just dropped to the bench, and then we had to pay him off or whatever to go. But Yelovich was a different level, and at that point, Naismith was playing really well, and they two were hurting teams game in, game out.
Do you remember Angry Neil Lennon? Back in the days because I don't think he ever got the better of Smith, Neil Lennon, did he?
No.
He was a very angry man back then.
I think the difference was back then is that, for many years, even though at times maybe we weren't dominating Celtic, we were very good at beating everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this team at the moment needs, obviously, is to beat everybody else, and then you take care of the Celtic games whenever they come round. And it's a couple of times back then, we did lose to Celtic a couple of times by 2 or 3 goals, but then we always found a way at Ibrox of getting by them. Mm-hmm. Because we were beating everybody else round about us, that was generally enough for us to get over the line. And then in this cup final, I think we spoke earlier, Celtic probably were just about favourites because they'd beat us previously, a couple of weeks before it. But it showed you the character of the team, that they come straight out. And, they knew it was going to be a battle. They knew it was going to be a physical contest, and that's how the game started,
Not a lot of quality to it.
No, but you get that in a lot of these cup finals because neither team wants to give up too much early doors.
Mm-hmm.
Neither team's going to open the game up. They're not going to leave the space for each other to play in, because that was kind of how the game was back then. Celtic were very kind of reliant on Hooper scoring goals or Common.
Samaras.
Well, I thought Hooper was probably their best striker.
Oh, is that a penalty?
No.
Definitely not.
No.
Because I haven't seen this game for years, a bit like yourself, so...
Well, I've never watched it back.
I'd like to see the replay, but that looked a wee bit...
Nah, I'm pretty sure he dived.
You could tell for that one camera angle, Willie, could you?
That was enough, mate. That camera angle was enough to tell me he dived.
Oh... do you know, I forget.
There's a replay there. Look, he's just fell out. That's embarrassing for Mark Wilson. He gets sacked by Brecon if that's how easily he goes to ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. That's why he's on Clyde now, isn't it? And Neil Lennon's not happy. Look how angry he is, man.
I can see the problem with somebody like Mark Wilson. you know, that's what he's known for, was his time at Celtic, because the rest of his career, all right, he was a decent player, but he was never anything special. So that's why I always think it's quite funny when he comes out with some quite extreme views on Rangers at times. Like, well, all right, like you played for Celtic for a couple of years, but you weren't exactly, you know, like a superstar. You weren't exactly anything particularly special. So when you start making comments about other professionals, I don't think it's right. I think there's a fine line between having an opinion and then having quite an extreme view. And I've heard a couple of the things that he's said recently, and it's wrong. It's like he's always trying to kind of push it towards one side because he's Celtic time, you know.
Thomas Rogner, a man who's got a worse nose than me.
He played against us recently. Did you not see that? I actually thought back then he was probably one of their better players. I actually thought he was a decent player.
I don't really remember much about him, to be brutally honest. But back in 2000, I'm trying to think, 2011, so I would have been 20-something.
Seriously, you can't ask me what age you are now, and then you take away 9 years.
Oh, take away 9 years, right? So 22.
Wolf, do you think that he's only 31 right now?
That's some fucking paper around.
I know, come on.
It's my hair.
Come on. He's having a giraffe if he's only 31, isn't he?
Only 31.
Let's not talk about hair though.
Well, I'm trying to think. So 22, I was maybe doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, and he's pulling his jersey. So no, I can't really remember Rogner. That is a total dive, man. Mark Wilson, get up. That's embarrassing. The ball's moving. Greg Wild as well, Wilf. He was one who, if I can remember rightly at the time, everybody thought was going to be the next big thing. And then he just kind of seemed to disappear.
He jumped ship. As soon as we went into administration, he jumped ship. He was first
out the door. Yeah.
Him and that, the Spanish lad who, I can't remember his name, he was here for about 5 minutes. There was a Spanish lad we brought in, and I think he maybe played once.
Was that? Oh, thingy. What was his name? Tohan or Johan? No, that's just no. I'm trying. I can picture him, but I can't think his name.
But him and Greg Wild left at the same time.
Look, his Ali signed that boy, didn't he? He paid like 300 or 400 grand for that. He was a winger.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was one of the first ones, and then obviously we paid money for a Swedish guy, and he disappeared as well. Didn't we mind the guy? Like he was pretty raw.
Aye.
I think we let him go, and then like sort of Bedoya, he left, and a few other guys started to kind of leave as well.
Bocanegra, I think he stayed for was it 2 months?
Bocanegra stayed for a couple of months. Yeah.
And then he played in the first game. It was him and Big Goyan started the game up at Peterhead, didn't he?
Aye.
That must have been a shock to the system for Bocanegra rolling out, man, at Peterhead. And then he get turned rotten by that big Rory McAllister, didn't he? Did he skin him for the goal?
He's still scoring goals.
I see he's on the bench a lot of the times now for Cove. It seems like he's an impact player.
He scored for Cove yesterday. Scored a penalty for Cove yesterday.
Mate, I tell you something, they'll be the Premier League in about 3 to 5 years, won't they? Because the money they're spending.
That's their plan. They've been bankrolled by the guy who's bankrolling them to get a few quid to throw about.
See where they're playing at the moment. I take it they wouldn't be able to play like Premier League games where they are at the moment, no, because there wouldn't be enough space to build like a 6,000 or 8,000 seater stadium, would they?
No.
I mean, no, just look at that there. The pace, I know you're talking about something there, but the pace of Wild, he was as fast as fuck, wasn't he?
Aye, but that was his main attribute, though. I mean, that's basically what he was in the team for.
That's all he had.
Yep.
What happened to him after he left then? Did he just bugger off down south?
He went
in England for quite a few years.
He's did around the houses in England, I think. He was
at Plymouth. He went to Plymouth, didn't he? Was it
Plymouth, aye.
I was at Plymouth, then Millwall, then back to Plymouth, and then he went somewhere else, and now he's up in Scotland.
In fact, I'm sure I saw him playing for Plymouth.
Yeah.
I was doing in London for I was running a half marathon or something ridiculous.
Right.
And the day before it was international weekend, and the only games in London that weekend.
Davy Weir. Fucking hell.
Was Leyton Orient or Charlton against Plymouth. So I went to Charlton and Plymouth, And I'm sure Greg Well played for Plymouth that day. Sure he did.
What are you doing running half marathons, you madman?
Oh, if I can't run marathons, all sorts.
Oh, he's got to score that, hasn't he? Fucking hell. How did he? Was that Brown?
But how far into this game are you, by the way?
21 minutes and 15 seconds.
I keep getting adverts popping up here, so I'll just catch it up.
It's a ball into the box. I think it's Commons. And Brown's got a kind of free diving header and he puts it well wide. He's got to score that.
Hell.
Did you see it, Wally?
I just seen it get by the post there, actually, 2 seconds. Aye. Look at it. See, when you look at like the two teams back then, they were probably quite close in terms of like sort of quality against each team. But I just always felt like, see your front two, see like if Naismith and Yelovich were playing a lot of the time, I always felt we would create chances and we would take them if they came. And also when Davis was playing, you know, like sort of Stephen could open up games at will. And for some reason, like Lafferty seemed to be playing a lot of these big games, didn't he? You know, like for all his record wasn't he particularly great at times, he did seem to be playing a lot of these big games because of his pace to kind of turn the defenders.
Aye, Smith done that, but he never played Boyd in the big games, did he?
It's because he didn't have the pace to turn away for guys, though. Especially at Celtic Park, like you needed guys that could run away for each other. You know, and also Lafferty had that. And he could also be a spearhead. You know, he could also play as the centre forward to hold the ball up, link the play. He could run the channels. That wasn't really Boyd's, you know, kind of speciality, was it? You know, I mean, that was more Muller. Like, so when you look at the sort of Muller-Boyd partnership was perfect because Muller did a lot of the running, the tracking, pulling runners away. And then Boyd was just in the penalty box to tuck everything away. And that was this, you know, that's why they two were so good together.
Neil Alexander with the ball, and you know, I don't think you'll find many Rangers supporters that have got a bad word to say about Neil Alexander.
I think the way he left, some people didn't particularly like it, didn't know. Oh, there's a goal.
No, there's no goal for me. Oh, here we go. Stephen Davis running through.
This is all your fault for not having it.
Oh, do you know what? That goal, I mean, that is a terrible shot.
It was a sclaff, wasn't it? A sclaff along the ground.
Well, have you put it back to the start of the game?
No, but I'm just trying to catch us up again. There we go. That's it. That's Stephen Davis here. Oh, it wasn't a great hit. I mean, the keeper should be stopping that.
Do you think it's just the way he's hit it, that because of the pace it's been hit at and the position it's been put in?
That's just the keeper's shit.
I just don't know if he expected him to hit it so early, and maybe he's been a wee late, you know, a bit late getting down. But it felt like that's the sort of shot that a goalkeeper should save, to be honest. I just don't know if he's not reacted quickly enough.
Because, I mean, you can say what you want about Forster. I can't remember back then, but his second spell at Celtic, he is a really good goalkeeper. And the guy they've replaced him with.
See, the point is, like, sort of goalkeeper, it's such a difficult position to fill the void. Like, we've been exceptionally lucky over the last 20, 30 years. You know, guys like, you know, Woods, Kloss, you know, sort of McGregor, etc. You know, Gorham. We've been so lucky, and that's been the difference in some of the big games, especially like the Old Firm games, where our quality of goalkeeper has been the difference between us winning a game, losing a game, or drawing a game. Celtic probably in the last X amount of years, probably Boric and Forster have been their best two. When you look at like some of their guys that's been in goals, like Rab Douglas and Bain and stuff like that, you know, they're nowhere near the level that the goalkeepers that we had at that point.
No. You just seen a quick picture of the Rangers supporters there, Wilf, doing the bouncy. Old Firm Cup final, you go 1-0 up, but isn't there a better feeling than that, is there?
Oh, there is going 2-0 up. Okay, it's something else.
I'm surprised you can't remember this game.
I don't remember. I'll be honest, there's loads of games I'll remember the results. I couldn't tell you what happened in them. Just at that time, my life was really busy and there was loads of stuff going on, and because I never watched them back, you know, you've only got one at the time, you know.
If I ever do watch games back, it's the 10 or 15-minute clips on YouTube, but I haven't seen this one for a long time.
I didn't even used to do that, highlights or anything. I do now, but I didn't used to watch highlights or anything back. You know, I mean, these days it's just something to do because you can't get to the games. Because for me, obviously, going to a game, it's not just a couple of hours. I'm away all day.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Are we allowed to talk about Stephen Naismith?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
A lot of Rangers fans, obviously, kind of the same way as Whittaker, but I think it hurts a wee bit more because, you know, Naismith was supposed to be one of us, but when he was at us, he was a brilliant player.
Oh, well, there's no supposed to be about it. Stephen Naismith grew up a Rangers fan. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean,
the thing is, see, at the end of the day, regardless of what anybody thinks, there was no way that some of these guys were going to come and play at the bottom level of Scottish football, or it was the manner of how they left was wrong.
I think that was more it, Willie. It was what he said when he left.
I see the idea, like, no Rangers fan is going to sit here and say that we expected to have, you know, the entire team that finished that season start like the next season at that level. Like, nobody expected that. But it was like Stephen Davis left in the right manner, because I believe that Southampton paid a fee for Stephen Davis. It wasn't very much, but they paid a fee. And I think Morris Edu had a fee paid for him as well. So did one or two of the others. So they did it the right way. I think the anger towards like Whittaker and Naismith is obviously down to, you know, the manner of how they left the football club. Well, they poorly advised, yes. Should they have known better? Absolutely. But I still appreciate the quality that Stephen had. And he went through a spell, I think, like 6 months, 12 months, where he was exceptional. You know, his movement, his touch, and he was scoring quite a lot of goals. Like, I think the one that sticks out in my mind was the one he scored at Tynecastle. Mind he scored in like the last minute.
Aye.
He kept it out his right foot, and then he hit it off the post. And then like he scored the double against Celtic that season in a 4-2 as well, I think it was. And Stephen at times was exceptional. And I can understand the anger towards him, right? I can, because it was just the way that he left the club that pissed as many people off. But look, that's the nature of the game. And he's never going to return to Rangers as a player. So like that's ship sails of like from my point of view, like it's moved on. We're in a new era. We've got a new team, and that's just how it is.
Just very quickly before we come back to Naismith, Graham's put in the chat, Aaron Niguez was the Spanish player you were talking about.
no, I don't think it was.
No, it was another guy.
Oh, well, Graham, you're wrong.
Was it Chelich or something like that? Was the boy's name Chelich? Something like that. Because I'm sure it sounded a bit like Celtic, and people were like, "What the fuck are you signing that for?" And he couldn't leave quicker. I'm sure it was a guy.
There it is here. Juan Manuel Ortiz.
That's who I was. I was close.
All right, okay.
We signed him for Almeria, apparently. I'm just Googling it as we speak here. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, Lafferty does well to keep the ball in. See, I always found that with Lafferty when he got out wide into good crossing positions, his final ball was terrible.
How bad is that you actually forget a full footballer that played for Rangers? So I haven't actually searched for his name because like he played for such a small period of time.
How many players do you think? Right, I'll tell you what then, while the game's going through a wee bit of a lull, try and think of as many players as you can that played less than 10 games for Rangers.
Oh, there's loads.
Oh, there's tons of them.
Go for it then. If there's loads, name them.
There's loads. Darren Fitzgerald.
Aye, all the academy players pretty much that played.
Aye, well, no academy players, right? This isn't the youth. This isn't our monthly youth podcast.
He can the academy.
This isn't our no. It's not our monthly youth podcast, right?
But that's what used to happen though when the season was done with 2 or 3 games to go. They'd throw guys in at the end of the season, couple of games, and then you wouldn't see them again until the same time next season until they played for somebody else.
Right, okay, I'll reword it then. Think of players that we've signed that have played less than 10, 15 games. That have
Daniel Prodan.
Apart from Daniel Prodan, everybody knows Daniel Prodan.
Newcastle.
I'm trying to think, who was the big Norwegian centre half we signed with the curly hair, mind?
No, was that no Svensson? Oh, there you go. See, that fucking Joe Ledley.
Joe Ledley. Dan Egan.
Again,
I maybe
Aye.
tried him alone. I don't know if he actually ever played a game, did he? Was he no on the bench?
no, he didn't.
Right, listen, go for Celtic, ball in for.
I look, we're just passing that one by, mate.
No,
That-
you need to discuss it.
That-
Flick on for Samaras and a finish for Ledley. Whose fault was that?
Probably should shut the ball down a bit quicker for the ball into the box. The second part is poor because the first flick on should be defended better. The second one's difficult and
In
it's
between,
so quickly.
in
But-
between Boogie and Weir.
Aye. But look, that was very much what the two teams were like. There wasn't a lot between the two teams. When you actually look at them, as I said earlier, it was two very even teams, and like it just took that one moment of quality in the game for each team to be 1-1. Because when you look at like the other 30 minutes of the game, it wasn't particularly great apart from the two goals.
I know, and I just happened to pick a game that goes to extra time. I think that's the only 2 goals we get until.
Honestly, I mean, like you could have picked a 90-minute game, so we could have all been sitting having a cup of tea at 9:30, 9:45. But
I could have.
we're still going to bone here at like
Unless he's bringing me a cup of coffee about 9:30.
Go into the box, that's away. But Joe Ledley, listen, I know we don't really like to talk about their players, but what did you make of Joe Ledley as a midfielder? I thought he was actually quite a good player. No, nobody wanted to come in on that.
I mean, I thought he was a good free transfer signing for him at the time because he was a good player for Cardiff. And
Penalty.
What's that?
Penalty.
Oh, he's a Bruce or a shocker.
I don't know when he overturns it, isn't he?
Oh, so he
Yeah,
does.
He's overturned it.
How did I forget about that? This game was 9 years ago. How did I not know that?
But the thing that gets me about that, right? He's given the penalty.
I know.
So who's told him it's not a penalty?
Yep.
Because the fourth official's not supposed to, at that time, not supposed to get involved.
And the thing was, it was a penalty because he clipped his knee. That was the thing. He actually clipped his knee. Like, you see the studs going into his...
So he did.
And he books him for diving.
Aye.
So but as soon as he gave it, did he just go, no, I've got that wrong? Or did somebody say to him that's not a penalty in his ear? Let's have a look.
I mean, like, he just seemed to change his decision, and then it was like...
That's soft. If that's a penalty, well, that's soft. Let me see this angle
Well,
here.
also, but like, there's...
Oh, he does. No, it's a penalty. That is a penalty.
Studs on the knee.
Aye.
He was being a bit dramatic, but for me,
That
that's
was
a
Jelic. But aye, there you go. Boom. Right in the knee. That's a penalty.
Aye, for me, that's a penalty. But then he changes his mind. But he doesn't appear to consult with his assistants. So you've got to think the fourth officials told him, look, I think he dived.
I think one of us should send a wee email to Claire White and see if she can sort it out.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No points, you can't fucking read.
But see, but it's like sort of really bizarre though. See, when you look at like some of the things now that guys are getting pulled for, and some of the things that even happened like 10 years ago, it's actually laughable when you see some of the things now that are getting pulled up compared to back then. But it seems to be like whoever shouts loudest on like sports scene seems to end up at Claire White's door. I think that's where like Gerard's been really smart this year. He's told the players, look, we can't have anybody sitting on the touchline for doing something daft, because that was always Alfie's problem.
Right, by the way, Graham's at it now because he's put in the chat, Jose Carol Pierre fan.
He was a French centre back.
He definitely wasn't Spanish.
No, he's talking about guys that played less than 10 games though.
Oh, was he?
Aye, and he played a couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
He played a friendly at Linfield pre-season when Le Guin joined us. And the reason I know is my 2 oldest daughters were mascots at the game, and one of them walked out with him.
Was it Big Rodriguez he played beside?
Rodriguez, aye. Yep.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
He was quite highly touted at the time, wasn't he, Rodriguez? Because a lot of people were saying that.
So it was fan.
I think Rodriguez was more because did he not play
Monaco. Captain
He
Monaco.
did quite well in Europe previously, so I think that was why he was quite a big signing.
Did he not captain them in the Champions League?
Can't remember.
I think he did.
Check that.
By the way, actually, gentlemen, just before I forget, I invited Graham to come on tonight and he ignored me, and now he's sitting watching. Graham, get your arse on.
Mate, he's probably seen your hair and thought, I'm not going on to his...
I think he's also put in the chat Lee Borsionko. He played more than 10 games.
I think Libor played more than 10, aye.
Lieber played a few, aye.
Aye. He scored in his debut, Wilf, didn't he? He scored against Motherwell in his debut.
I think so, yeah.
Aye.
Another one that only played a few games, talking about scoring on their debut. Boy, Fabrice Fernandez.
Aye, maybe paid like £500,000 to loan him, didn't we? And he scored against Motherwell, and then he just like disappeared off the planet.
Scored a screamer against Motherwell, never seen again.
And then who else was it? Was Marcus Gale?
Oh yeah.
Marcus Gale.
Here, who was the boy that we signed? Alex McLeish signed him, and the deal was that I think it was Argentina, but I'm pretty sure it was South America. And the deal was that he could stay there, and he only had to fly over to play games.
He was Italian.
Was it Italian? Was it?
For his name, but he was Italian.
It was, wasn't it? Right, Graham. What was his name?
He never ever came over.
Did he never come over? No.
Never needed him because I think the deal I think was if we needed him, they would let him know on the Thursday and he would fly over on the Friday and play on the Saturday.
That's what the deal was. That's right. What was his name?
Can't remember.
Right, Graham, you've been commenting in the chat because you're too scared to come on. So give the guy's name.
Was that the bald guy, like the bald Italian? He was maybe about 30, 31?
I'm sure he was a striker, wasn't he?
He was a striker, eh?
Striker.
Yeah. I'll see if I can Google it. I'll Google it while you are talking shit, right?
The reason that we haven't really spoke about the game is because there's been nothing happening in the game.
No.
I couldn't have picked a worse cup final to put on.
No, you really couldn't have done, mate. That was real quality workmanship you did there.
You can't find it on Google. Send a message to Davey Edgar because he knows who he is. He talks about him all the time.
Oh, does he?
Aye.
If somehow David's watching, David, let us know.
Let's see. I guess bringing up every Italian that's ever played for Rangers. This could take a while.
This boy never played.
Let's see. Right.
Yeah, Graham's just messaged me. I'm heading home soon, so can't come on tonight. Graham, you're a liar. You're sitting in the house now watching this.
So how does it work? What is he watching it at his work?
I know. He's full of shit.
Or does he patch his bird and says, "No, I'm just going to watch this and I'm leaving for the house soon"?
Maybe it's his bit in the side. Well, and we've just outed him.
Possibly.
There's space in the right. Is that Scott Brown? Do you know Scott Brown still looks the same? Samaras picks it up. Oh, look at that, man. Big Davy Weir was colossal for us, wasn't he?
I'd love to have got him a few years before we got him.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
I mean, when he joined, I remember the furore when he joined. Like, fuck's sake, we're signing a 36-year-old
for
a 6-month contract just to shore up with defence.
Right, I think I found it. Is it Filippo Maniero?
That sounds about right.
Yep. Filippo Maniero, that's him.
That's it.
Apparently we got him on a free transfer for Torino. That was the season we signed Francis Jefferson loan as well.
Jeffers. The fox in the box that couldn't score goals.
And then we signed a young Argentinian striker. Well, do you remember the young Argentinian striker we got in and loan?
You need to give me his name, Willie.
Federico Nieto, mind him?
Oh, Nieto.
Right, he scored a couple of goals.
He did actually, that's right. And then one of the most famous football manager players ever, Moses Ashakode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hey a minute. I bet you Wolf seen him play for Rangers. Wolf would have been at Parkhead that day.
Was, yes. He actually came on in a pre-season friendly against St Mirren as well.
There you go.
Wolf's
seen him in proper first team action. Wolf's seen that, man. That would have played to fame forever. He's seen Moses Ashakode.
Come on for about 10 seconds in an Old Firm game.
What was that, about 8 seconds?
Right, gents, 5 minutes to go. 5 minutes to go until half time. What have you made of this game as a kind of whole? I mean, was this just the kind of Old Firm games you got back then, where there wasn't a great deal of quality? It was just high intensity.
No, it wasn't always like that, but I always felt that cup finals, like, neither team were prepared to, like, kind of open the gates up too much kind of thing. You know, there was always that let's see how they're going to set up before we do anything, or was that 10 or 15 minute having a look at each other thing. I just always fancied us in cup finals because at that point, obviously, we were the team that were the most successful in terms of winning these games.
Mm-hmm.
Celtic, even under Lennon, you knew they were going to be tough, but I just always felt like our quality, as I said earlier on, with like your Naismith, your Davis, your Yelovich would always be a wee bit too much.
It's been 50-50, Wolf.
What's that, man?
Would you say it's been 50-50?
Yeah.
Chances, possession.
Apart from the 2 goals, there's really been nothing. No, not a lot happening around about the goal mouths. I mean, like a few balls sort of thrown in and headers wild. The keepers have had nothing to do. So yeah, I think it's probably been.
I know. See, this is why I want Graham on, because Graham's one of the tactics guys that knows all about, who's playing where and why. He would have been good to have on because we'd have been able to fill another 15 minutes full of shite.
So then I'm looking through some of the signings, right, that we've made over the period, and some of them are. What about the Manchester United duo that we got on loan under Le Guin, Phil Bardsley and Lee Martin?
Well, Lee Martin, when he first came, he played was it 2 or 3 games and he looked really good, and then after that he just disappeared.
Or what about William Stonge and Amadou Maktarandayi? But they started just signing random French guys.
And that was Le Guin. He just signed anybody from France.
We signed 2 guys for Rennes B team, Antoine Ponroy and William Stonge. I don't
think either of them ever played.
No.
I remember, is it Stonge Air, but I don't remember the other boy.
Because like
Ponroy, I remember them.
But you look at Smith, like Smith went straight out once he'd been sacked and signed like Hugo Ehio because like we couldn't defend. Like Svensson couldn't header a ball. Papac went from a centre back to a left back. Sibo was pretty much kind of sparingly used. You know what I mean? Like sort of Thompson, with Kevin Thompson at that point, didn't we?
I think so.
At the end of that season. So it's weird, like sort of when you see like the 2 managers, like how they differed in terms of like the type of player that they wanted. It felt like Gwen was just out signing anybody because he thought the level of Scottish football was that shit that he thought he could just sign anybody and they would be good enough.
I actually think the job that Smith came in and done after he replaced Le Guin is quite underrated. He came in and done a fantastic job at turning that squad around.
But when you look at the core of that team, though, I mean, you look at that summer there, I'm looking at the following summer, right, when he had his first full transfer window. He signed McCulloch, Whittaker, Quella, Naismith, Kuzan, Beasley, Neil Alexander, and he got Christian Daly in a free.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Bosmans was quite big back then, so we get Kurt Broadfoot and Alan Gow. And I think we signed Roy Carroll as well, it says, down the bottom, and that was when we loaned Stephen Davis. So he basically tore up like sort of Le Guin's entire 11 and built a brand new team that summer.
Yep.
And then came in and won the league.
Aye, but I think the biggest thing was like the mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
Smith took us to Parkhead and we won 1-0 when Big Hugo scored the overhead kick. I mean, I remember arriving at Parkhead that day and I'm positive that Sibo started up front. And all the guys about me were like, what the fuck is he doing starting Sibo? And some boy turned around and said, aye, but he'll give the defenders a bit of a chasing. I'm like, he's never going to score in a month for Sundays. But that's exactly what Sibo did that day. He just ran and ran and ran and ran. And he almost tired them out,
I mean, see the thing about Big Sibo, the very first game I took my little brother to was against Aberdeen at Ibrox.
I scored.
We won 1-0 and he scored in the very last minute and we were right on line with the goal. So I'm always going to have a wee soft spot for Sibo.
He just never looked like a player that was going to be the standard, a striker that we needed. He never looked as though he was a high standard player, if you know what I mean.
No, do you know what? He had everything apart from ability. He had everything apart.
He's broke his camera, look well. The twat.
I just punched my laptop.
So see when you look at somebody like Sibo, that shows you Le Guin's ignorance. for Scottish football. All right, like Siebel was a decent player at that point. I think he had a decent goal scoring record, but how much did they actually know about him?
Mm-hmm.
You know, did they think he was going to fit into how we were going to play? Because it felt like we were signing guys and then just like kind of dropping them into places, and it didn't feel like anything was like set in stone. Because I think at Lyon, basically what was happening was players were being signed and he was coaching them.
Yeah.
Whereas this was the first time that he was properly signing players, and it felt like, I mean, like Svensson couldn't head of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, like, Scotland is one of the most physical, combative leagues. You know what I mean? So, like, the amount
That's before you carry on. That's half time. The game just goes straight into the second half, so you don't need to worry about flicking it forward or anything. But Wally, half time, and apart from it being there's been some meaty challenges and a couple of goals, I kind of first half where nothing much happened.
No, look, it was quite a quiet game, wasn't it? I mean, it was. If you take out the 2 goals, it wasn't exactly the best 45 minutes in the world. But then that's, as I said earlier, that's what these games can be like. You know, there can sometimes be a real lack of quality at times because, you know, the midfields are just going toe to toe and no a hell of a lot's happening. But that's the nature of cup finals.
Watching that first half back, Wilf, if you can try and retrain your brain, what would you be thinking at half time after watching that? Would you be confident, or would you be thinking, oh, I don't know?
No, I'd have been confident. I'm always confident in the Rangers side that's not 2 or 3 goals down. And in those days, another 2 or 3 goals down. I'd have been fairly confident that we could turn them over because we were a better side than them, with better players than them individually. You know, all over the park. It was just looking back on I can't remember what I was thinking at the time, but looking back on that needed a lot more quality ingested into that. I'd probably have been screaming for a substitution about this time, just to get a bit impetus into it, just to freshen it up a bit.
Do you know one of the biggest things that frustrates me is we could be 3-0 up with 10 minutes to go in an Old Firm game, and I'm still thinking, oh no, just hurry up, final whistle. See one of the pessimistic Rangers supporters that gets raging because they're pessimistic, but can he stop being fucking pessimistic? It's frustrating.
I was just shocked there. I didn't realise that somebody actually paid us a fee to take Sibo. I thought we let Sibo go for free, but...
Are you still on this slagging Sibo?
No, I'm just saying, like, I didn't realise that anybody else paid.
Oh, good ball for Wild, and he's got it.
Yeah, apparently a French team paid £1.2 million to sign Sibo.
Really?
Aye.
Oh, good dig for Whittaker. Jesus.
Oh,
I think it must have been fucking fobbing off some amount of shite for them to pay 1.2 million after his Rangers spell.
Listen, I'm going to have to move this guitar because I can hear the vibration in my ear when I'm talking.
What?
That's a good dig for Whittaker. Aye.
No, a bad dig. He was good at that, though. Whittaker was good at that.
He was.
He certainly hit a ball.
And that Greg Wild could put a decent corner in as well. He was good at the dead balls, Wild.
To go back to what I was saying about him earlier, I don't know. I think he's still playing, but I've got no idea where.
I'm pretty sure he's at Clyde.
Is he at Clyde? I know he was
at just in front of Davis. I don't know why I'm going, as if it's a live game. I am pretty sure he's at Clyde or something. Because I think I was talking to him on Twitter a few months ago, trying to arrange an interview. Probably shouldn't have said that live. But I'm sure he's at Clyde or something.
Who's this?
Greg Wild.
No, I think he's dropped below that now, mate.
Is he lower?
I think he might have dropped into the Lowland League.
I was going to say, is that lower than Clyde?
That's a poor header for Davy Weir. Although it's
apparently for East Stirlingshire. That's where he is now.
East Stirling?
East Stirlingshire, aye. I mean, he's only 29, so he's went for playing with Plymouth and Millwall, and then at the age of 29, he's now playing for East Stirlingshire. I mean, that's some amount of drop in that.
For a guy at that age.
Aye.
No.
If there is anybody out there watching, because my laptop seems to be wanting to freeze, if there is anybody out there watching live, get your comments in about what you remember of the game. But my laptop's decided that. Oh no, here we go. Back we are. My laptop's decided that it doesn't want to work tonight. But yeah, Greg Wild. who knows what would have happened to his career if what happened to us didn't happen, you know?
But the thing is, when you look at it back then, whether it was his agent or whether it was other people in his ear, he clearly went there for a decent amount of money because it's no offence to Plymouth, but a lot of players will only sign for Plymouth because of where it is. I mean, it's a long way out the way. So a lot of guys were signing back then for Plymouth because they were offering good money.
Aye.
And that's why, because at one point the Scottish manager, didn't he? Was it no a guy left Ross County and went to Plymouth? And he signed quite a lot of Scottish guys.
Derek Adams. Was it Derek Adams?
It might have been Derek Adams.
Right,
Yeah, knowledge for you.
Yeah,
I know, by the way. Hey.
I never knew you knew things like that.
I didn't know I knew it either.
Derek Adams, who used to be involved in Rangers, I believe.
Was he at Rangers? I mean, I've got knowledge, Wilf, on everything apart from Rangers. I don't know why I host a Rangers show, to be honest with you. I should just start hosting the Plymouth Argyle, you know.
I'm sure Derek Adams was involved in, I don't know whether it was a youth coach or I'm sure he was involved at Rangers at some level, not for long, but before he became a manager.
He was was it the Ross County manager he was? Derek Adams.
He was Ross County manager. His dad was quite high up at one point at Rangers, wasn't he?
I don't know the inner workings, Willie. I'm not as clued up as you.
When it was George Adams, Wolf, I think, was at Rangers at a point.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he was there. It's trying to think of all these names when you're live on YouTube, honestly. Like your mind scrambles.
Well, listen, before we started, the internet was starting to play up. I says to you, gents, do you want to just do it recorded because my internet's not working properly? And Willie, you says, I put my makeup on. You know, I want to do this YouTube.
Look at that, mate. Not even a sweat in my brow. Look at that. Beautiful. I've got to say, right, if we do one of these ever again, right, please just pick a 90-minute game.
Right? With goals in it.
No. I mean,
listen, we've seen 2 goals. It's a Sunday night. It's international break. It's international break. There'll be people sitting at home now, you know, with their laptops on, watching the game, listening to us talk about everything apart from this game.
Mate,
you know?
See if I was on YouTube, I'd be watching the game and had you on mute.
So Celtic, who was that? Papach. Oh, what does he do with that? Is that did he go at that with his right foot? His left foot, sorry. It was nearly our own goal. Oh, scramble. And away they come with it. Sasa Papach as well. That was a strange one, wasn't it? Because he came in, like I think it was you that said it, Willie, as a centre-back. Hopeless at centre-back. And moved it to left-back. And he's became kind of a cult hero.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you look at it's weird because when we signed Sasa, I'd never heard of him.
No. Was it Rapid Vienna, Willie?
Rapid Vienna, yeah.
Was it?
And it was one of those ones, like you sign somebody and you think, I've got a wee knowledge about him, but with Sasa and a lot of the guys at Le Guin belong in, it was like you knew none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So like you were willing to give guys the benefit of the doubt. You were saying, look, let's see them for the first 3 or 4 games, but it was worrying because the first 6, 7, 8, 9 games we were thinking, we can't defend Crow's boys here.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that the box, you were petrified. I mean, I think it was a day at Easter Road. I'm pretty sure we battered Hibs for 90 minutes, but we lost the game because I think they put a couple of crosses into the boxes. Svensson like ducked out his header, one of them. But that was one of the first things. Even Smith came in. I think Svensson played a game or 2, Wolf, didn't he? And then it was just like, right, that guy can't defend. So
there's no, you know, it's. I mean, the thing with, like you say, Le Guin, I was disappointed with Le Guin because he came in. He took a year off of football. Said he would come to us, and you know, he supposed to studied the game, but I don't think he ever had a look at it. Saying, "Well, Scottish football is easy."
Yeah,
and like he just signed players that they couldn't. They were good technical players, but you need to be big and physical and good in the air and all that to play in our Diddy little league. You know what I mean? And they just couldn't do that.
I think his attitude towards the game here was very, very low. You know, the fact he was, don't get me wrong, I thought the boy was Jeremy
Clement,
the central midfield player. He looked a very good player, but you looked at so many of the other guys that he brought in, even like Letizia, like sort of Letizia should have been a goalkeeper of a good standard. But he just always looked as though he was quite shaky.
I think with Clermont it was homesickness, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. We were the only club outside France he ever played for.
Mm-hmm.
But we look at him, I mean, I think he was still playing up until about a year or two ago. I mean, I don't know if he is still playing, but he was still playing at a decent level. So it shows you that when you look at a lot of the other guys that he signed, a lot of the guys drifted quite. In fact, I think Steve retired when he was like mid-20s, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I think he's in like a music band now or something like that. So I mean,
We should have just we should have borrowed with the As Live stuff and the watch along. We should have just called this like the Rangers Retro podcast or something, but we speak about old players because this game's been terrible.
I know. Thanks to you for picking this game, honestly.
Let it go.
The thing is, though, it's things that have happened in the game that have led us on to talking about these players. So
That's true.
We probably wouldn't have gone down this road. So
see, the next time we do one of these, right? Me and Wilf will pick, or Graham will pick, or whoever else has got one iota of brain cell to actually pick a game that's not going to.
It'll be none of us in the fucking group then. That'll be picked.
Honest to God. I mean, what made you pick a game that went the extra time?
Do you know, I typed in cup final wins and it was the first one that came up.
But you could have picked any game. Like you could have picked like a recent victory against Celtic at Parkhead, which we all thoroughly enjoyed with Connor Golson scoring 2 of the best goals I've ever seen. I mean, why would you not?
I wanted to try and make it an older game, Willie. Listen, if there's anybody watching this right now, they're going to be going, "Oh, I'll just fucking switch off," because they're not enjoying it. I'm enjoying this game, Wilf. What about you?
Well, I'm enjoying it because I know the ultimate end result, and it's spoil it for anybody, but we win the cup, and I'm happy with that.
I know, Willie. So shut the fuck up, right?
Did you not pick like a 5-1 cup win against?
Don't you start.
But then I could have sat my missus doing this. Come on, this with the boys and watch your team get slaughtered. Do you know what I mean? It would be brilliant. Great way for a Sunday night.
True.
You know.
Right, well, if everybody wants to research a different game, we'll stick that on and we'll start from the beginning. How does that sound?
No.
Anyway, corner he is, 55th minute. Good ball in for Wild, nothing happens. I just thought I would get in the 55th minute there, you know. Do you appreciate that?
No.
You're see, we've only ever really done podcasts, Willie, that have lasted an hour. I didn't realise what a miserable bastard you were.
You know what it is, right? I've been at work all day, and then you've decided to pick a game that lasts for 2 hours and 24 minutes.
It doesn't last that long. We're not going to watch all the stuff after the final.
What are you saying though? I mean, I'm basically blaming you for this.
Well, I gave you the option, and you went, I want to do it because I want people there to see my face with my makeup on. So I don't know what you're complaining about.
Right, I need to go and feed my cats because my cats are here. Yeah, maybe.
Too many jokes.
No, I've got my 2 cats sitting staring at me here. I need to go and feed them.
What's that behind you?
That's what? Where?
There's something behind you. Is that a big packet of crisps?
This is Chris for American football.
That was my crisp for my American football. You know, I can't watch it because I've got YouTube on the television. Watching a rerun in the 2011 League Cup final. And my team winning, and I say to you, like, we hardly ever won a game. So if there's any New York Giants fans out there that eventually ever watch this on YouTube, this guy Martin Douglas forced me to win the 2011 League Cup final. Well, the New York Giants were actually winning a game, which hardly ever happens.
Would you support them for then?
Because it's your team. You don't just leave your team because they're no winning things, Martin.
But you're not for America.
I know, but there's always a love and devotion for every team that I support.
Have you ever went to see them live?
Not as of yet, mate, but it's definitely on the list to go and do it.
Right, so you're not a supporter, you're a fan.
What's the difference?
There's a big difference. A supporter supports the team by funding them. A fan is just like you.
That's an outrageous thing to say. You would literally start so many fights on Twitter by making that kind of comment.
Or maybe it might start some fights on this. Right, go and feed your cats.
Right, are we back?
Right, well, again, there's nothing happening in this game. What have you made to the start of the season? This current season, I should say.
It's been all right. It's been better than I expected it to be honest. I mean, we should really be sitting on maximum points because Livingston performance was an aberration, and we should never have dropped points at Hibs. But I mean, these things happen. You're never going to get through a season winning every single game. And
no. But see with the Hibs result, did that? I mean, I was speaking before it, saying we'd made a good start to the season, and then Livingston happened, and I slightly overreacted to the Livingston result. Right, as soon as Livingston happened, I was shouting, "Oh, same old Rangers, blah blah blah." Did the Hibs result worry you at all?
It did, because we went behind them, but we're always going to have to lose goals because that's first. I think the first goal we lost, and then we got ahead in the game. And traditionally, Rangers teams that go ahead stay ahead, and then Hibs equalised, and we just couldn't put the game away, and that worried me, because I thought, well, that's the start of conceding goals now. So if that continues, we're not scoring a lot. I don't mind Rangers winning games 1-0, 2-0. It's a bit nerve wracking, but ultimately, you like the Kilmarnock game. We were only 1-0 up, but we were never really in danger of losing a goal because the defence is so good. But I thought after a Hibs game, I thought, well, we might be starting to lose some goals here, so we'll need to score more, and we're not scoring an awful lot of goals. So that was a bit worrying at the time. But I mean, we've certainly turned that back around, and the defence has been really, really good. The team seem to really cherish clean sheets. Because every player that's interviewed after a win that we don't concede in, they always emphasise, it's another clean sheet, it's a clean sheet. The manager says it's a clean sheet. Not just that it's a win. They seem to. There seems to be a pride in getting clean sheets, which is fantastic.
And that's the thing as well, talking about clean sheets and stuff. I think since Connor Goldson's came to the club, he's been a bit like Marmite. I don't know if you agree. You either love him or you hate him. But this season, you've got to admit, whoever's been beside him, he's been outstanding.
Well, that's a penalty. I think I'm slightly ahead of you here, but that's a penalty.
It's not a penalty.
That's handball. It wasn't because you didn't give it, but. I think this is maybe a cup of coffee coming my way, is it? Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. There we go. That's just tremendous cup of coffee, lovely. Sorry, Connor Golson.
Definitely not a penalty.
Right. In today's football, that's a penalty.
In today's football, I totally agree with you. Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, seen that again. Put his arm out.
He did actually, didn't he?
Stuck his arm out, that's a penalty. Should have been a penalty. Right in front of that cunt Thompson, right in front of him.
Well, see, there you go. That's 2 penalties we should have had in this game. And I'd imagine if the shoe was in the other foot, there would be 2 or 3 days of papers full of, the refs cheating.
You can't say that. You'll end up on a charge if you even suggest that it was been given if it was going the other way.
What did you make of Craig Thompson as a referee? I actually thought he was okay. He made a lot of mistakes, but I think it would be fair to say he was kind of straight down the middle. There was never a thought of bias for him.
I didn't like him at all.
Did you not like him?
Not at all, no. No, didn't like him at all. No. I mean, Scottish referees generally aren't very good.
No, they're not great, no.
A lot of them looking back, like I can go back to guys like Brian McGinley, who you'll not remember. I thought Brian McGinley was a poor ref. But then we've got guys like Dallas and realised how good McGinley actually was. And we've got the guys now who are that bad that Dallas looks like a good ref. And Dallas wasn't great.
I see, obviously, you were obviously going to Ibrox at the time when Hugh Dallas was refereeing. And there was a lot of people that used to say that, Hugh Dallas, he's a Rangers man, he's biased, he's this, he's that. But was he actually was he a good ref? Was he a half-decent ref, or was he just terrible?
No, Dallas was okay. Looking back on it, he was okay. At the time, we thought he was terrible. But, I mean, I would swap Hugh Dallas for any of the lot we've got now. And, I mean, I mean, the guy showed he had a bit. He had some balls and all when we won the league when we won the league in the East End in '99. He hit a coin and gave us a penalty. He just showed he had balls because he could have walked away from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I think he had the cup final about 3 weeks later as well, which a lot of other refs were going, "No, get me out of that. I don't want any part of that."
So that's Scott Brown coming off for Son Young Key. Is that the boy that went down south? Went to Swansea or something?
Yep. Decent player, the boy.
I'm surprised they're taking Scott Brown off, though.
Injured. I think he was injured.
Oh, was he injured? How's your cats, Wally? Are they all right?
They're absolutely delighted now that it's been fed, mate. Aye. And I just seen that my team won 27 points to 17. I got my beer amaretto out for the New York Giants. Let's go, guys. Great win. Love it.
Did you miss any pass downs or
No,
touches?
you're right. Don't start slagging the American football, all right? Because people are allowed to like other things. All right? I love my football, but I love my American football as well. It's my Sunday night tradition. I sit from 6 o'clock until 11 or 12, like, depending on when I fall asleep. I watch my American football every Sunday. So no slagging it, all right?
Listen, I watch the Super Bowl every year.
I know, but there's like 16, 17, 18 games that lead up to that, though. So
I know, I'm a Chicago Bears fan myself.
Well, how do you consider yourself a fan if you've only watched the Super Bowl, you twat?
But I'm not a supporter, I'm a fan.
You're an idiot, honestly. Well, honestly. Well, this is what you've agreed to work with this, man.
Yeah, I'm not getting involved in any American football discussion because I don't know anything about it at all.
Yeah,
that's because I don't want to be controversial here, Wilf, right? But it's shite.
I've got no opinion on it because I don't understand it. Because I've never tried to understand it. I remember watching the first ever Super Bowl that was on Channel 4. I remember watching that. I think I'll give this a go, see if I can get into it. It lasts an hour.
I'm just feared now in case there's like one American football fan that tunes into this, clips what I've just said, puts it all over Twitter, and I start getting hounded, man.
Right.
Well, I thought you weren't on Twitter anymore.
Well, I'm not, but the page is. Because nobody knows that I run that page, you know.
Well, they're going to know now.
No, they're going to know now.
Honestly, God.
But again, look, 66 minutes in, and absolutely hee-haw has happened. Or was he onside? Is Naismith onside? No, he's offside. Right,
No, this is the sort of game that you could easily skip to, like, extra time now.
I think what we're going to do is when it gets to full time, we'll skip to the second half extra time.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to keep you happy, Willie.
But I thought we scored in the first half extra time.
Well, I won't be skipping that.
You twat.
I think we scored quite quickly in the extra time.
I mean, that's the guy, right? I mean, like he said, he did like research, right? He didn't even know when we scored the winning goal, Wilf. I mean, this is what we're up against, mate. I mean, this is the standard of quality we're having to put up with here, mate. It's outrageous.
Well,
I'm sure he'll improve.
We've got 25,000 people watching right now, so you know.
How many beers have you had? 25.
It's Greg Wild again. So it's just wasteful. Just so wasteful. I genuinely, genuinely one of the reasons why I picked this game was because it's one of the games that I've very, very rarely watched back. And the only time I ever have has been I think there's a 9 or 10 minute highlight package on YouTube. So I thought, do you know what? International break, people have been fed up because there's a lot of fans that don't like international football. We'll do something nice, and I didn't realise just how shite this game was.
That wasn't great.
Although Big Yelovich is strong as fuck, isn't he?
Oh, he was tremendous. I really, really wish we could have kept him a lot longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really wish.
He wanted to go, but didn't
he? He had to go because we needed the money.
I know.
So I don't think he particularly wanted to go. He had to go
I think Jelavic is one of the guys though, because he done it to come to us, didn't he? That he kind of went on fucking like strike type thing to come to us.
He down tools in Austria
Mm-hmm.
because he knew he was coming to us. But I mean, Everton got a bargain when they signed him.
Well, it's just weird to think though that after this season, the fucking shit hits the fan.
Right.
And is that our last major trophy, Wally? Did we decide that, was I?
I don't know, Wilf said he was going to go and check it. To be fair, it must have been pretty close.
Well, what was it? What month? What was this? Was 2020? Is this 2010, 11 or 2011? 2011, 2012 season or 2010, 2011?
2011, and then one of the other ones you said.
Was this game in March 2011?
Aye.
So we won the league after this.
Yeah.
We won the league.
The next season was when McCoy's took over and we started the season great, and then it obviously.
Well, that season fucking still hurts me.
Yeah.
I mean, we started the season so well, didn't we? Like we were playing some outrageously good football.
We were 12 points clear.
I know.
About October. And then we played St Mirren and Ibrox. They played Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. And I think they were 3-0 down at half time on the lunchtime game.
Right.
If I remember right. I know because all the Bears are getting excited. The Tims are 3-0 down. And they pulled it back to 3-3 in the last minute. And we played St Mirren. And we were a goal up in stoppage time. And we fucked about with it in the corner. Like Lafferty fucked about with it in the corner. And St Mirren banged it up the park and equalised. And that meant we were still 12 points clear. And at that time, there was rumours of problems. And I honestly believe if we had won that game and gone 15 points clear, we would have gone into administration on the Monday morning and still been top of the league. And it could have been also different.
Yeah. Then, like, did Naismith not got a bad injury as well around about that point? And that
Aye, Naismith did, aye.
You know, like,
see, even though, if we had won the league that year, would they still have got taken off us?
No, because had we held out that game against St Mirren and gone, it was either 15 or 16 points clear. If we'd gone into administration on the Monday like we eventually did in the February, we'd have deducted 15 points, but we'd still have been top of the league. But by the time we got the 15 points deducted, it had already started to crumble and fall around about us. And the 15-point deduction put us too far behind, but we're never going to catch them.
Because if memory serves me right for that season, because believe it or not, my memories went blank for a lot of the stuff that happened. I don't know if it's just trauma, but Celtic had a few games in hand, didn't they? I'm sure Celtic had a few games in hand.
Possibly. But that St Mirren game sticks out in my mind because I remember thinking back on it when it all happened in the February, March, saying if we had held out that St Mirren game, going into administration on the Monday, which was rumoured to be happening, would still have been top of the league, which means we were in a strong position to go on and win it. Whether we would or not subjective, but
yeah, like you're saying there, right? Before all the shit hit the fan that season, we were playing some really good football. And do you think what happened to us affected McCoy as a manager as well? Because he gets a bad rap for his management style and stuff like that. But like you say, that first season, we were playing some really good football. I
mean, to me, when what happened, it all happened. He had no support network around about him. He was basically doing it all himself. There was only he was doing everything. He was dealing with the press, trying to deal with the charlatans that were trying to rob the club. He was trying to deal with staff. He was doing absolutely everything. And if it wasn't for the fact we had a Rangers man as strong as him, I don't think we'd still be here, to be perfectly honest.
I think it was McCoy and Sandy Jordan minute that saved the club.
Aye, I think so, yeah.
So 73 minutes gone, and I hate to repeat myself, Willie, but nothing has happened.
No, I think even just getting back to Will's point, I mean, and talking about Ali for a minute or two, nobody blames Ali for, like, especially that League Two season, you know, the bottom division. We basically were under an embargo and we had to put a team together in a very short, sustained period of time. So we were adding guys that let's be honest, but very few of us had heard of them. But they did enough. And like Andy Little had an excellent season. He scored a lot of goals for us. Barry Mackay obviously came into the first team. You know, like your Lewis McLeods, your Fraser Ayres and guys like that started to show. But if the people that were running the club then had a structure in place, the club would have been in a far better place far quicker. But that wasn't the case. So when we went into League One, obviously Ali had went out and he'd signed some guys who did well in Scotland. But it was never like a long-term view. Like we weren't looking at something that was like 1 year down the line. It was just, we're signing guys for the now. And then like that championship season when he signed like Boyd and Miller, most days were excited by that, but we also accepted that these two players weren't the players they were in their prime. It's like that day against Hearts when we played them at Ibrox and we equalised late on, but then Hearts went straight up the pitch and made it 2-1. That kind of summed up that season.
Aye.
You know, and I think in the end, like, change was needed because Ali, he looked mentally and physically drained and something had to change at that point. And that was obviously like, you know, like King came in and the Three Bears were there and they ousted Ashley and all these other guys who were just taking money out of the club left, right and centre. And for all, like Mark Warburton came in, obviously when he left, people were a bit annoyed the way that he left, but Mark Warburton did a phenomenal job that next season in the Championship because that was some of the best football that I've seen Rangers play. And I know people could talk about it being the Championship, but how we played that season was exciting to watch. You know, at that first game at Easter Road when, I mean, like you couldn't write the script for that first game at Easter Road. And that
6-2.
I mean, that was mental.
They scored first, I think, didn't they?
They scored first.
Yeah.
And then like Dav scored, and then we took the lead. And then I think we went, was it no 3-1, and then they scored a penalty, and then we went on to score another 3 goals. But I mean, that team.
Oh, that's a high boot.
I mean, that was a crazy kind of time that as well, because like we literally went out and rebuilt a whole team under Warburton in that championship season. We had like Halliday and Holt come in as trialists.
Yep.
You know, and then we ended up signing them. And let's be honest, like, nobody had really heard of Tav. You know, like Wycombe was sort of well known because I think a club had paid like 4 or 5 million for Wycombe like a couple of years previously, so he was at least known. But a lot of the other guys, you were sitting going, I have no idea who he is.
Just before I come to Wycombe, who was that? Cooper maybe should have scored there. I want to go back, Wilf, to speak a wee tiny bit about McCoist and pick up on something Willie said, was that job aged him tremendously, didn't it? That guy was under so much pressure.
Of course he was. I mean, as I said earlier, he was doing everything. He was dealing with all the stuff that was coming. He was dealing with the press, and he was dealing with the various boards and guys that were coming in, and the players, and he was basically doing absolutely everything himself. And I know that's what used to happen back in the sort of 60s and 70s. The manager was the man that did everything at the club. But that was different days. There wasn't social media. There wasn't the same media scrutiny. A stronger man, somebody not as strong as Ali would just have walked away and went, fuck this, I don't need this aggravation in my life. You know, because it's noticeable that once he left us, he's not come back into football. In any capacity. He's not gone as an advisor or a coach or a manager, nothing. He's gone back into his doing his stuff in the press, and he seems to be living life again.
To be fair, that's what he's good at. That kind of, I mean, question of sport when he left it. I don't think anybody watched it after he left it. You know.
Well, the thing with McCoist, I mean, I know people. Obviously, a lot of people that aren't Rangers fans, but they all love McCoist. They all think he's a great guy. You know, even people that aren't interested in football, they saw that Ali McCoist. See him on the telly, question of sport, doing this, doing that. Cracking guy, seems to be a life and soul of the party. So his charisma carries him through.
Yeah.
How do you think Wally McCoist will be remembered by Rangers supporters? I think obviously Wolf mentioned it earlier, it'll depend a little bit on what age you are and what era you grew up in. But for the all round, how do you think McCoist will be remembered?
Yeah, look, just a wee kind of tiny bit to that. I mean, I'm 38, so like I grew up pretty much in the Souness era. You know, that's like some of my kind of early memories of like the Souness era. So to me, like growing up, like Ali was one of my heroes. You know, quite simply. You know, he was the man that was scoring all the goals, and he seemed to be all the papers with like different women every weekend, and you know, and end of the day, the guy was Scotland's best striker. You know, he was winning golden boots and everything. I mean, he was one of the top players in European football back then. You know, literally, his ability to score goals was unbelievable. You know, you couldn't actually put down just how important his goals were season in. I mean, was it not something like 45, 50 goals a season he was nearly averaging, Wilf, at one point?
Aye, I mean, he won his back-to-back golden boots.
Aye.
With 40 odd goals, you know, 2 seasons. I mean, that's to be the leading goal scorer in Europe, playing in Scotland is incredible, and to do it 2 years in a row is just out of this world. I mean, the guy
was also one of those seasons that he won it. He missed the last 6 or 7 weeks or something with a broken leg.
That was a Portugal game.
Yeah.
So he won the Golden Boot, missing part of the season with a broken leg.
And the big thing with that as well, though, is when you played in Scotland, did you not only get a point for scoring a goal, but if you played in Spain or Italy or England, you get 1.5?
I don't know. They started doing something like that.
Aye.
It might have been after that they started doing that, but they started messing about with it. I mean, a goal's a goal. It doesn't matter. You know,
but like the league in Spain was of a higher standard, and if you scored a goal, it was worth more than a point. And McCoy's ability to score goals was sensational. But I mean, just getting back to your previous point, for me, Ali will always be one of my heroes. That will never change. Nothing in his managerial time in charge changes my opinion on that. I'll forever, you know, love him for the goals that he scored, for the celebrations, for the moments of joy, and all the happiness that he brought a lot of Rangers fans. So that will never change for me. Maybe for the younger generation that only seen him manage in the lower leagues and seeing what he had to get through, you know, I think, you know, well spot on. There's many other men out there that would have walked away a long time before McCoy did with the stuff that was going on behind the scenes.
Well, one of his big things when he came out and he says we don't do walking away, didn't he? And then I think that was a big thing because of all that gardening leave stuff, Wilf, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, we don't do walking away. Was just a throwaway comment. He just said towards the end of the interview, and it just seemed to resonate. It seemed to stick. And I mean, the gardening leave thing was very strange because it was announced the day we played Queen of the South.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Because we played Queen of the South on a Friday night in December in Dumfries, and it got announced, I think, that lunchtime or early afternoon.
Right.
And we still went on. We got beat. We were terrible that night. We were stinking. We could beat, think 2-0. We were terrible that night. Might be 3-0. We were terrible. And we just didn't know what was happening with the club. And it turned out that he was still on the books. And like you say, he was on gardening leave. And we just, I personally didn't know what was going on. I didn't have a clue what was going on with him. She just got rid of him, you know. And then, you know, Kenny McDowell took the reins. He didn't want the job.
No.
I mean, he was on right. Look, I don't want this, but he took it, you know. And then it just obviously still the spectre of Ali sitting in the background. The thing that didn't do him any favours was the salary he was reputed to be on.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way I've always said to people, look, if your gaffer goes to you and says, look, this is what I'm going to pay you, and this is the plans we've got, and we can afford to pay you this, you're going to say, aye. You're going to say, aye, just give me it. You know, if it's any of the three of us, we're going to say, well, aye, thanks very much. I'll work for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we don't know the promises he was made.
Mm-hmm. But listen, a really strange substitution in the game there. Beguera's came off and Kyle Hutton's came on. Now, I don't know if Beguera picked up an injury or what there, Wally, but Beguera for Hutton or Hutton for Beguera?
From memory, I think it was a niggle. I think he picked up an injury and we didn't have any other centre-backs because we were already playing 3 centre-backs that day. So I don't think we had anybody else to bring off the bench. So Kyle ended up coming on.
So who's slotted into centre-back then? Is it Whittaker?
Whittaker slotted into centre-back, didn't he? The Whittaker logo inside.
What position did Whittaker no play for us?
I think he played as a striker one night in the Cup, so probably everywhere on the pitch, to be honest, at one point or another. I mean, Whittaker was a freak, really, in that his versatility actually was so good. You know, I think we spoke previously and other things talking about like sort of Ross McCrory's versatility has made him have a difficult early start to his career because he came through as a centre back. He started off as a centre back in the first team. He moved into holding midfield, but he can also play right back. Like recently, he's played at full back for Aberdeen, full back for Scotland, and central midfield. Whittaker, for all his versatility, he still managed to play in the team pretty much every single game. Whether he was a full back, a midfield player, a winger. I mean, he was freakish, and he scored a ridiculous amount of goals.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit like Tavernier, like not to the same extent as Tavernier, but he had that ability to get you, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 goals. And he was a really clean striker of a ball. And yet again, like, he should really be remembered a lot more fondly than he is because of what happened, obviously, at the end. But yeah, like, Stephen was a really, really good player. And when we signed him and Kevin Thompson, I was excited because I thought both of them were really good players.
But that was the thing at that time. Hibs were just bringing through player after player after player. But just touching on that Kyle Hutton substitute. Well, for you, a wee bit surprised that after what happened that Kyle Hutton never kind of really made any impact at Rangers?
At the time, yes. But looking,
should have been a goal, Joe Ledley.
But looking back on it, the way not to have a go at Ali, but the way that he sort of ran the team, as Billy said earlier, we didn't do anything looking at the future, because really coming through the lower divisions, guys like Kyle Hutton, Lewis McLeod, all these guys, they should have been playing Robbie Crawford. They should have been 50, 60 games under their belt for Rangers before we even got back as far as the Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He signed jobbers like Ian Black and guys like that to get us in. We didn't need guys like that to beat the teams that we were playing. Mm-hmm. We should have had. And okay, you never win anything with kids, as they say, but we should have had 4 or 5 kids in the team every week. Yeah. Getting them experience would still have won the leagues. I mean, the one that's ridiculous for me was when we won. Was it League 2 at the time? The second bottom tier, whatever they called it, because they kept changing the names. When we went unbeaten, right? Who actually cares that we went unbeaten?
No,
we should have been playing guys like Kyle Hutton. They should have had loads and loads of games for us, and it would have helped us probably get out the Championship quicker. Get back.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
There'd be a structure there, and it would also going forward and made the club some money.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys would have had the experience, we would have been able to sell them on rather than just releasing them and letting them go.
I mean, that's a great point there for Wilf, because like sort of that League One season in particular, it's like sort of John Daly basically was playing on like one leg at times because he was injured.
Mm-hmm.
And because we wanted to do the unbeaten thing, he kept putting John Daly in the team, but John Daly could move at one point towards the end of that season, and yet he was playing him, and you were like, just give the guy a rest. You look at, I mean, let's see, to most supporters, the unbeaten thing wasn't really that important.
No.
Basically, let's get out of this division and let's get out of the Championship. That was what everybody was like, let's just get out of here and let's get to the Championship. Everything else was irrelevant because nobody really cared. I mean, 50,000 people turning up at Ibrox in a midweek to watch like Rangers against Northumberland in League One was mental. And the game we finished 2-0 and you go away and go, yeah, that was shit. But it was 2-0 and that was you closer to winning the league because like Northumberland were like one of the few teams that were like going to challenge you in the odd game. And it was a strange time to be a supporter.
It was weird.
So, yeah.
Do you know what helped me during that time? I was living in Gloucester. I was living right down south. So I was away for the whole the feeling and the mentality that a lot of Rangers supporters would have had in and around Glasgow. But just going quickly back to this game, Wilf, and the last kind of 4 or 5 minutes, it's kind of been all Celtic. And they had a corner there a couple of minutes ago, and Joe Ledley's got to score that.
He should have scored it, but it was Joe Ledley, so. I don't remember Joe Ledley's being particularly that good a player, but he seemed to come on to. It was after later on in this, after he left Celtic, that Joe Ledley seemed to become a bit of a player.
It was Crystal Palace or something he went to win it. Was it something like that?
I mean, whether it coincided with him growing that stupid beard he had or not, I don't know. But You know, he certainly seemed to get a lot more good press and do a lot more after he left them.
Yeah.
At this time, I think Joe Lennon was just a jobber. He was just a shirt filler, I think.
See, but Celtic were quite smart at that point. They were bringing in a lot of guys using like the Bosman. So like Medley come in, they signed the boy Matthews for Cardiff as well. So they were quite smart, and that they were using the system probably better than we were. Whereas I think now,
great tackle with Weir, look right through Samaras.
Our like transfer business now, everything's like 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line. Like you listen to Ross Wilson, and you've got to be impressed with how he looks at things and how we're building a structure now. You know, you listen to him on that. I think it was about a week ago. He was in Rangers TV, and he also did like the kind of Freeview one for about 20 minutes. He's talking about how everything's going to change and how he's changed things, and this is a model, and you can see it now. You know, you look at the change in the last year. You know, like the small additions to the squad. We've obviously upgraded our scouting network. A lot of things are getting looked at now. You look at like, let's be honest, but right, when we signed Joe Aribo, how many guys actually knew that much about Joe Aribo?
I'd never heard him. Never heard him.
Yeah, again, like this was all put in place even before Ross Wilson was. I mean, I know there was a lot of criticism of Mark Allen and stuff like that, but the system was getting implemented, and that we were going to look at younger players who could develop into better players.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joe Aribo's one of those guys. Getting Joe Aribo for like a couple of $100,000 for these cross-border transfers is possibly going to be some of our best business.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, also getting Glenn Kamara for $50,000, and then like bringing Stephen Davis back up the road for free. You know, all these transfers are going to like work out long term, because you always need experience. You need that like, you know, like a good group of players. You can have young players, middle-aged players, and then older players to guide them. So with Davis and McGregor in this team, they've won things for Rangers. They understand what it means to win things.
Mm-hmm.
So that experience is massive. And there's now like a lot of leaders within the group. You look at like Goldson, Tavernier, you know, they're prepared to go that extra mile now to win a game of football.
Mm.
And like
right.
the leader as well. You know, he's turned into a leader, Ryan Kent. I think he's one of those guys now. When he's at it, well, so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Connor Goldson earlier on, and I didn't really answer the question you asked me, Martin, about Goldson. I think he's come on.
Sorry, I'm getting used to that now, Wilf. Sorry.
That's all right. We're off on a wee tangent. I think that the problem we had with Goldson when he first signed was he'd hardly played any football. Yeah. You know, because of his heart issues and stuff at Brighton. His first season for us, he played more games then than he had in the previous 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of getting used to, but he's used to it now. He's used to the game. Mm-hmm. He's used to playing every week. And he seems to be one of these players that wants to play. Yeah. Because I'm sure, you know, the manager said to him at some games, look, you want the afternoon off. Can we stick you on the bench? Just let me play. I just want to keep playing. Mm-hmm. He's one of these players that just he relishes playing games. You know, and he's come on leaps and bounds, and he is a leader. I mean, you can hear him because there's no crowd in. You know, you can hear him shouting all the time, and you know, he really organises the defence, because there's no point in leaving Taft to organise the defence, because he's always up the other end. You know, he's up.
I just want to quickly pick up on this game. There's a minute to go, and I would say for at least the last kind of 10 minutes, it's been all Celtic. But is that, would you say, typical Walter Smith tactics? Sit back, soak up the pressure, and then break?
At times, yes. At times, you know, like Walter Smith, when he
should just really very quickly say as well, Kyle Lafferty off and Vladimir Weiss on, and obviously that proves to be rather important.
Yeah, look, I mean, like Walter wasn't silly. You know, this wasn't like the team that he had previously. This wasn't when you had Gascoignes and Laudrups and Goffs and Ian Ferguson's. So you had to have a slightly different style. You know, like, I mean, sometimes when we went to Parkhead, we would just give Laudrup the ball and expect him to do something magical.
Mm.
You know, there was some nights we were on the back foot against Celtic at Parkhead. Gorham was making great saves. John Brown's flying across, putting his body on the line. Goff's getting kicked in the face, and he's getting the bandage on and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, like Laudrup would get the ball 20 yards out and just whip it, and you're 1-0 up, and you're sitting going, all right, that's fine, that'll do. And that was how it was. And then the last 10 minutes, Celtic would like barrage the box, and Gorham was making reflex saves that nobody in the world should be able to get to. And that was like Walter Smith's idea, and it worked so often. It was ridiculous. I mean, there wasn't many times, Wolf, that we went to Parkhead and we were comfortable.
Just before we bring Wilf in, very last kick of the ball, Vladimir Weiss has won a free kick, and he's just about to take it, and it hits the wall, and there you go, full time. So one each. Wilf, if I'm being brutally honest, if I had known that the game was going to be like this, I wouldn't have picked it to do a watch along. But looking back in a game that you haven't watched for a long time, what did you make it?
Oh, it was brutal.
It was brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah. Nah, it was just. I mean, I knew that the goals came in the first half of the game, and then second half, nothing really happened, because I don't remember. Even although I never watched it back, I don't remember any great saves or anything like that. Thinking, you get games, you think, oh, somebody missed a penalty the last minute, or there was a great save here or there. I don't remember anything of that. And it's not a game really that anybody talks about.
No,
it's not. I mean, there's games that we've had, even older games than this, that people will talk about. McCoy's getting a hat trick against Celtic in the League Cup final in 83, 84. Things like that, because it's memorable. There's nothing memorable about this apart from what's going to happen in the next few minutes.
Which is why I picked the game, William.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of done. No, but look, it's you could have definitely picked a better game. I don't think there's any debate now. If we do another one of these, I think you should put a wee bit more effort and thought into the process, and maybe let the rest of the guys know what game you're picking, and especially 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. Maybe there could have been a bit of better focus. But look, it's great to watch these games back, because like the memories come flooding back. I mean, in past years I've watched games from like the late 80s, the 90s, and for some reason it like stimulates your brain to remember stuff. I mean, how can you remember something that happened like 20, 25 years ago at a football match? But see, when you watch it, you start to remember things. And it's
aye.
Bizarre, and a bit like Wolf, travelled all over Scotland watching the team for many years, and turning up in random places, and nearly falling down a hill against Berwick Rangers one night, because you had to go up a wee grass verge to get to the porta potties. So on the way back down for the toilet, I nearly slid and went head first into the side of the boardings.
I'd have paid to watch it.
And all these daft places that you end up, and you wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? And I sat and X amount of hours on a bus. I mean, I used to hate going to Aberdeen. I detested going to Aberdeen, because you always played them early. But then all of a sudden, I think it was like Setanta made it a 5:30 kickoff. So like you're sitting all day waiting, and then the bus leaves at like midday. Sometimes earlier, depending on if the guys wanted to go to the pub. So you went down to the harbour, get absolutely obliterated, somehow made it into the game after about 4 body searches, into Pittodrie, and you get the worst view possible in this wee corner where you can barely see anything. And then when Rangers score, it's like exhilaration. And then you forget the rest of the time until Rangers score again, and then you forget it again, then Rangers score, and then you leave, and then you think, I've got 3.5 hours to get back down the road.
Well, listen, I know that feeling very, very well, because for me, quite unfortunately, due to the job that I've had since I was 18, I've never been able to get a season ticket to go to Ibrox, because I've always worked on the days that Rangers have been playing. But I've been a coach driver for 12 years now, 13 years. And when I was working with a certain company, who obviously I won't name, I always got to do a Rangers bus. I always got to drive a Rangers bus. And you would go to Aberdeen, you'd go to Dundee, you'd go to Kilmarnock. And I'd always be one guy on the coach who was too steaming to go to the game, and I always get his ticket. So it was great. So I've got to travel to all these gruns, and no pay to get in and no how to pay to get there.
Like Wolf is the worst trip ever. Like Wolf's actually coming down from Aberdeen to Glasgow every second. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Now you know how it feels for us. That's standard for us every game.
I just think, like, see, when you start going to the football, you don't really have a concept of how it is. You know, I mean, it was obviously a lot easier 15, 20 years ago, wasn't it? Because everybody get tickets. You know, you'd 8,000 at Parkhead. You were getting massive amount of tickets for Tannadice and Tynecastle and Easter Road. Like, you could basically pick up a ticket at any game that you wanted to. There was never a hassle. Cup finals weren't a problem. You know, it was like, so the game's changed a lot, but I grew up with so many great memories. Like all the guys off my supporters bus at Johnston Ring Supporters Club, and I had a great time. You know, like sort of growing up with, you know, the banter, the talk about the football, the singing coming back during the road because the guys were a bit worse for wear alcohol wise, you know. And I mean, I think when we won the league one night, we started singing a Queen song or something like that for about an hour and a half on the way back down the road in the bus. And like, these are memories that you wouldn't get in any other walk of life, probably. You know, because like football brings everybody together, and I'm still friends with a lot of guys now just because of Rangers. And a lot of these guys, you would never ever meet them in your life if you weren't interested in football. I mean, the European trips at Wilf, Wallace had a few times. I mean, spoke to Wilf over in Denmark when we were in the same hotel. Where it had like the pull-out bed, so that was fun at night. Where the guys were trying to pull the bed out after coming in, having a few drinks, and so like these things are great. And like guys that do the trips, it's special, you know, because you get to meet a lot of guys who are, you know, like genuine supporters, like guys who follow the club everywhere. Who
not fans, Wally, supporters.
That's what you want to say, mate.
But listen, we'll come back to that in a wee second. But Wolf, I just want to ask. Everybody remembers Vice from this game for obviously that pass through for Jelavic, but actually since he's come on, he has made some difference.
He has, yeah, and he was a cracking player. He really was. It would have been good. Again, he's one of these players. It would have been good to possibly keep him for longer than we had them. But then there was always Vice is coming back, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? He's still playing now. You know?
Aye.
He was apparently.
You've got to say that's some save, isn't it?
Aye, it's gone the wrong way, isn't it?
I forgot about that save. That is some save. What's he done here? Jelavic has hit it. The big deflection, boom. What a save.
Off the wall. That's a good stop.
And that's hard for you to say, Wolf, isn't it?
No, it's a good stop. I mean, it's not entirely the wrong way, and he just flaps a hand at it.
Aye, it was a good save. Before the end of this game as well, now, I want to get your opinions on Scotland, because I know that Will's dying to talk about Scotland. So we'll get your opinions a wee bit later on, Will. Just
don't have an opinion. I didn't watch it. I'm not interested.
But actually, Will, that's actually a fair shout, because I mean, I was born in Glasgow, raised in Glasgow. Now I live in Lanarkshire. So if I ever need to go to Ibrox, it's only 15, 20 minutes down the motorway for me now. So do you drive to Ibrox, or do you get a supporters bus?
It varies.
Does it
when
vary?
I first moved up here, I didn't drive, so I always went in the supporters bus. Then I passed my driving test, and I used to drive it. I used to drive to every game home and away for about 20 years.
Oof.
Every single game home and away, 2-3 times a week. It was brutal. Always in a car full of guys. Because as Willie said, in those days, getting tickets was a caker. You know what I mean? It was always easy enough to get tickets. So it was easy enough to say to you guys, look, take the car down. Who's coming with me? We'll just fill the car and away we go. And then I had kids, started taking my kids to the game.
Years ago,
and I realised that I'm spending all day with my kids, but they're looking at the back of my head because I'm driving the car and they're sitting in the back seat. So we started taking the train. Just
before you finish that off, there's a ball for Vice. Through to Jelavic. How does that go in?
A great finish.
How does that spin in?
Incredible, isn't it? Incredible how that spins in.
Madness.
You know.
Can you remember your reaction to that in the day, Wolf?
Aye. I couldn't actually see it get in. I saw it hit the post because I was kind of side on it, and I saw it. I remember it hitting the post and it spinning along the line, and I fully expected it to come back out. And then all of a sudden, the Rangers end just went absolutely mental.
And that is it. I mean, see, like if you go to any of these games, sometimes in the game you don't actually see the ball hitting the back of the net, like especially at Parkhead. I mean, see the amount of times I've missed a goal at Parkhead is ridiculous because somebody just like jumps on you. It's even if somebody jumps on you, feel like they're all behind. You just go forward. You don't even go hit the back of the net.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's loads of grounds like that.
I know, madness. I mean, like back in the day when you had like 8,000 Rangers fans in the corner at Parkhead. I mean, I think like the biggest roar or the biggest madness I remember was the night that Rod Wallace scored the goal. Mind Alberts missed a penalty.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely tearing a rain the whole night. I came straight from my work, I think, from memory. And Celtic pummeled us that night at times. But then when Wallace scored, I lost my glasses. I think my glasses went about 3 rows in front, and I had about 6 guys were kissing me, and I think I was on the ground at one point, and it's like you can't explain like that feeling. You know, like obviously, I would guess for other people that having a child's obviously like a massive excitement, that buzz. But the football's a different buzz. You can't really explain it to people that don't go. It's like when that ball hits the back of the net in the big games, it's a special feeling. You know, it really is.
One of the best for me at Parkhead, it wasn't even a goal. It was them missing a penalty. Back in the day, it was the old Parkhead. There was about 18,000 of us crammed in on the terrace and behind the goal, and we hadn't won there in fucking forever.
Yeah, that's true.
And we were 2-1 up, and they got a penalty with about 5 minutes to go, and I'm sure it was Joe Miller that took it, and keeper saved it, and he got the rebound, came straight back to him, and he ballooned it over the bar. And I don't think I've ever been on a Rangers end going so mental. It was just because we knew then we were going to win the game, and we hadn't won there for so long. It was chaos, absolute fucking chaos.
Well, talking about Wilf knowing that you're going to win, seeing in an occasion like this, we've just went 2-1 up. There's 5 minutes plus the second half of extra time. But are you thinking to yourself, listen, Walter Smith's the manager, we've went 2-1 up. There's no way they're going to score again, or are you shiting yourself?
Shiting myself. Absolutely shiting myself.
No, it's really hard. It's really hard, Wally, but when you're watching these games back, obviously there's no emotion in it because you know the outcome, and it was so long ago. But thinking back to the time when you're actually watching that, you're shaking yourself, aren't you?
I'm not really like a really nervous person, but see, before any games against Celtic, you always feel nervous because you don't know what's coming. I mean, I've been to Parkhead where like we've lost like 5-1 and 6-2 with really, really, really good Rangers teams. And yet we went to Parkhead with like guys missing and struggling with injuries, and you come away with a 1-0 win. So you don't know, like it's strange when you go to these games. It's just like the feeling of excitement, but you're worried, the tension. Then like you get in the ground like half an hour before the game starts, and there's already singing going on, and people are bouncing about the place, and you know it's weird. It's hard to explain to people who have never been to like the away end at like Parkhead or Pittodrie, especially back in the day. Like especially when you're talking about like the big away supports that we used to have back then. It was crazy. I mean, even trying to get into the ground at Parkhead, that was a hassle trying to get into the ground at Parkhead because you were shunted into this tiny wee corner. And see if you had to go through the gates to get into the wee tiny bit where like the police segment bit is underneath, you were getting crushed in, and like the horses are getting frightened and they're getting pushed towards you, and there's guys trying to get in with fake tickets and all that stuff, or there was guys trying to squeeze in with one ticket with like 2 people, and it was madness. But like you love the days, absolutely brilliant.
I like you say, well, I mean, people that haven't done it don't understand it. You know what I mean? They really don't. I mean, even now, you know, people say, why did you still go? Why did you go during all those bad times and all that? I mean, during what they call the banter years, it was easy for me because my wee one was getting into Rangers then, and she wanted to go every week, so I was always going to go anyway. And I'd been to most of the grounds that we visited for youth games or just to go to games of football. It was only 4 or 5 I hadn't done before our journey back started, but she wanted to go, so I took her to all the games, and it was easy for me.
Motivation thing,
you know, and so that's what I say to people. Look, it was easy for me because the Wayne wanted to go. But the only people that ask are people that don't understand. They don't know. They don't know what it's to go. You know, I mean, folk that maybe only go to home games don't know what it's like to go away. They've been to the odd away game. What? I mean, it's like going abroad. You know what, Willie, because you've done it the same as I have, over and over. once you go abroad once, you want to go back. You can't wait to go back the next time.
It's
Because
like
it's-
a
I think though, to be fair, for a lot of people, Wilf, though, for a lot of people, the going abroad thing, they just can't afford it.
Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying that it's a lot cheaper now than it used to be with low cost airlines and stuff like that. But it's not. I mean, the football's, when you go abroad, the football's really a sideshow. Football usually ruins it because Rangers don't generally get great results abroad. Recently we have done, but previously we haven't. Right? It's you meet the same people. You get crack. I mean, I meet guys abroad that I never see at games in Scotland, but I know they're at the game. I never see them. Anytime I'm abroad, I always see them. And it's just the crack you get. And for me, I actually enjoy organising the trips.
Yeah.
How do you go? And that's the other thing that amazes me is the way people go. I mean, it's some people say, right, we'll just go with a travel club. It's nice and easy. They'll fly us in, pick us up, fly us out, all that magic. Other folk will go as direct as they can. And Martin, as you say, it's for a lot of people, it's finance. For me, I try to do it as cheaply as I can. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's all around the house. So sometimes we have 2, 3, and 4 flights via all sorts of places to get to where we're going. But you always get, I mean,
it's also Wilf, though, getting the time off your work to do it as well.
Well, I mean, when I'm in a situation now, as I say, I'm not working tomorrow because I've got a week off, right? Because I've got holidays to use up because we've not been able to go. I mean, I've got basically most of my holiday entitlement for the year to use up in the next 3 weeks because I haven't been away in Europe.
Aye. Because so you use your holidays for going away to Europe.
Aye, I mean, I don't see. There's folk that religiously will take 2 weeks in the summer because they go away with their family. I don't do that. I take 2 or 3 days to go away with Rangers whenever we're in Europe. And we got Braga, and then obviously everything stopped.
Aye.
So
I should just say that's half time and extra time. I really wish I hadn't picked this game. I'm not going to lie to you, because the report for the first half of extra time was really good goal, brilliant pass for Weiss. Well, fantastic finish for Jelavic. How it goes in, I'll never know. But again, nothing's happening.
No, look, I mean, just looking back at the game, obviously, it's not been a great game of football, really. But it very much comes up, what the games were like at times back then. Neither team were prepared to give an inch, and that was just how it was. It was always that kind of combative style of football. But, I mean, there was quality on the pitch. I mean, I just spoke about earlier on. I mean, when you look at our front 3 or 4 players, those players were causing Celtic a lot of problems. But then you've also look at the other side of it. We changed our shape that day, to allow us to almost kind of take the pressure a wee bit, and it allowed us to then counter attack a wee bit quicker. And then when you've got somebody like Jelavic, who at that point was really prolific in front of a goal, he only needed 1 or 2 chances.
Aye.
One of them, and we ended up scoring the goal. But we even just get back to Wilk's point, really quickly about the Europe.
I'm just going to say, Willie, I'll need you to take the reins for 2 minutes because I've got to go and sort something out. I'll be back in 2 minutes. So
that's all right.
Take the reins.
I mean, but also we're talking about the European trips. I think it's very much open to debate as to what's the best thing to do with these things. And I mean, I've done a wee bit of everything. I've done the day's trips to Luxembourg because I didn't have enough holidays to use it. I've done the same as Wilf, where you'll try and find the cheapest way of doing it, or other times we've tried to find the most direct route. I think for everybody, they've just got a different idea of what's best for them. But see, as long as you get to the game and you get to have a bit of banter with your mates on a lot of the trips, for me, that's always the biggest thing,
Oh, of course it is. I mean, a lot of the time, with me, it's very similar to yourself, Willie. It depends a lot on where it is as well.
Of course.
I mean, living in Aberdeen is a nightmare going anywhere because we've got an international airport that doesn't actually fly anywhere.
Yeah.
You've got to go via London or via Paris or via Amsterdam or go down to Glasgow or Edinburgh.
Yeah.
To fly out with the low costs. I mean, we've been all around the houses. We've also been direct. And sometimes you're there for a couple of days. Other times you're there for a couple of hours. But as long as you get to the crack.
Yeah, that was a bit like us. When we did the Porto trip, we were up early on the day of the game. So I think because the guy that I go to like a lot of the trips with, he picked me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we drove to Edinburgh, and then we went from Edinburgh to London, and then we had a couple of hours wait there, and then we went from London direct to Oporto. But we were basically in Oporto for about maybe 12 hours maximum.
Yeah.
And then straight after the game, we were on a minibus. We drove to Vigo in Spain because it was just over the border. We got about 2 hours sleep in a hotel in Vigo. And then we went Vigo Airport, which had about 2 flights a day in it. And we flew to Madrid. And then I think we went to like Madrid to somewhere else, and then somewhere else back into Edinburgh. I mean, we basically spent something ridiculous like 30, 32 hours travelling all in, and I think we had about 4 hours sleep. It was, I mean, you just wouldn't do that for anything else. It was
mad. I mean, well, that's it. That same Porto trip we went. I was working in the morning. It was the holidays thing. I had to work in the morning, so in the afternoon I took a train down to Edinburgh. Flew from Edinburgh to Toulouse.
Right.
We got to Toulouse at the back end of midnight. Had a hotel in Toulouse for 2 or 3 hours. It was one of these things that it's a self-service check-in after 9 o'clock, and 90% of the flight were Rangers fans, and they were all staying in the same hotel. So it was just a queue of folk trying to work this thing out. 7 o'clock in the morning with a flight from Toulouse to Porto. So we were in Porto first thing in the morning, and then we flew back out of Porto first thing the next morning. It was mental. And the flight back to Luxembourg, crazy.
I know, like, you wouldn't do that for like a normal holiday, but you know, like you wouldn't put yourself to such.
Oh, no chance. No.
You know, to try and find. I mean, when we were trying to find a way of getting to Skopje when we played in Macedonia, I mean, I think we went from Edinburgh to Milan. I think it was Milan. And then we went from there to Skopje. But then on the way back, we were like 3 or 4 flights because there was no way of getting back the next morning after the game. So I think we went from like Skopje to Prague, Prague to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Edinburgh, or Amsterdam to Glasgow. And it was just like, you wouldn't put yourself through that for anything else other than the football. And it's crazy when you think about some of the stuff that you've did just to try and make it to a random outpost in Europe to watch Rangers play.
Well, I'm just watching Rangers coming through here, and we should have scored. That should have been a goal.
See, to be fair, and for everybody listening, on Spotify or whatever when this eventually goes on, I'm back. For this second half, it's been all Celtic.
Yeah, basically.
Apart from this chance Jelic has got when the boy, who's that brings him down?
Is it Mulgrew?
Well, she no busy watching his wings. It was Mulgrew. He should have been watching his wings at the time.
That never gets old, that does it?
Oh no. But no, well, going back to your Scott, me at Skopje, that was we flew. We went down to London, flew to Gatwick, with a 3-hour delay in Gatwick, which meant we were flying to Sofia in Bulgaria, and we were going to get an overnight bus from Sofia, but we missed that, so we had to book a hotel in Sofia, and then in the morning we couldn't work out the buses, so we ended up getting a taxi from Sofia through to Skopje. When we were at the border, we met a guy from Inverness and his girlfriend who'd hired a car. We bumped into them at the border. They took us back after the game. It was just ridiculous. And the sort of thing you wouldn't be that disorganised.
No.
Going on a normal holiday.
No.
You know?
A wasted free kick, that.
And I
know you guys are talking about all your European adventures, right? But I'm trying to keep it sometimes on the actual game we're meant to be watching.
I think it's just like it shows you how far. But it shows you how far Rangers fans will go to get to some places. I think that's what we're trying to show. That
no, absolutely. And by the way, I haven't actually mentioned this to Wilf yet, but whether he says yes or no, he's not really got an option. We're going to be doing Wilf's European Travels show.
For that, I'm good for that. Aye.
Where he tells us all the gory details about what he's got up to on his European travels. But that'll be coming in the future weeks and maybe months. But gents, I want to touch on something, and I'll come to you second, Wilf, because I want to get your opinion on why you don't. But you're talking about playing in Europe, so let's talk about Serbia, Willie. And Scotland finally qualifying for a major tournament?
Yeah, look, I mean, I only seen a very, very small amount of the game, to be honest with you, because I was busy doing several other things. But
Watching American football?
no, I wasn't actually very football. I was doing several other things. But I just think for the country, it's good. You know, let's be honest with it, it's a pretty shit time right now. A lot of folk are trapped in their house. In my area, it looks like come tomorrow we're going to be in tier 4, which is back to a complete lockdown, which for a lot of people, that's tough to accept. So maybe that wee bit of happiness to watch, you know, the country get to a major championship. I mean, I'm lucky, and so is Wilf, in that Scotland have been to major championships in our lifetime. So
Yeah.
we've seen them at least playing like World Cups and European Championships. And back in the day, like there was obviously several Rangers players in that team. So we did go and watch like their games on the television, or maybe the odd game that was at Ibrox, we would have went to it. But yeah, look, it's strange, like to watching like the games at times where there's no supporters in it. But look, Scotland getting to major championships is a good thing, and if there's a few Rangers players that are away in the summer, I'll be delighted for them.
And Wolf, listen, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But a two-part question, really. One, did you used to be interested in the Scotland national team? Did you used to watch their games and get excited? And number two, if you did, why don't you anymore?
Yeah, I used to go when I was younger. I used to go and watch Scotland. I mean, my last Scotland game was at Hampden in 1995. I think it was a 1-1 draw with Finland. I think, and it's not even so much I'm not interested in Scotland. I just don't. I just fell out of love with international football.
Right.
And I mean, since that Finland game in '95, I've been to watch 2 international games live. Oh fuck, that was a chance for them there. Go back to this game. And the 2 games I've been to I was in London for the weekend.
Oh, you're right. They should have scored that.
It's offside.
And bizarrely, Brazil were playing Argentina at the newly opened Emirates Stadium, Arsenal. Well, it's Brazil, Argentina, and I've never been to the Emirates, and I love visiting stadiums. And at that time, it had only just opened. I'd never been in it. And I'm not passing up the chance of going to watch Brazil play Argentina, especially back then. So I went to that, and then a few years ago, I was in Brighton for a few days with my girlfriend, and it was just after the Paris terror attacks, and England were playing France at Wembley. And I was like, if the game goes ahead, it just felt right as a football fan to go to that game, because of what had happened in Paris. So we went to that. So that's the only 2 international games I've been to in 25 years, just because I fell out of love with international football. I mean, I'm not bothered that Scotland qualified. As well as says, it's great for Scottish football. It's good for the country because loads and loads of people do like it, and I'm delighted for them. But I mean, I watched parts of the game the other night, and Scotland scored, but it didn't put me up nor down. And Serbia scored, it was the same, didn't put me up nor down. I don't not watch international football. I watch football. I mean, I'd watch an under-10s game if I was walking past it, you know, because I like watching football. But I don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. I don't really care about it. But I know there's loads of people that I know that do care about it, and delighted for them, absolutely delighted for them. But I can't get excited. It's not Scotland. I wish Scotland all the best, but I just can't get excited about international football.
No, I totally get that, and it's actually ironic because the last, international game that I went to was at the Emirates, and I can't remember the year, but it was Scotland were playing Brazil, and I was living in Gloucester at the time, so Gloucester to London's maybe about an hour or something, or hour and 20 minutes, and my dad had bought us tickets, and we were in the Brazil end. What a decision that was, by the way. I loved every minute of the 90 minutes. See that Brazil end? Absolutely phenomenal. But listen, obviously, Wally, there's El Hadj just came on as well, by the way. And in fact, before we go on to speak about that, El Hadj Diouf, Wally, what did you make of him in his time at Rangers?
You can see he was a technically good player. I think that was the one thing that stood out quite quickly. He was a technically good player. His attitude at times seemed a bit questionable. His work ethic at times seemed a bit questionable. But you don't play at the level he did if you weren't a good footballer. Clearly, the guy had these moments where he did like outrageous things, and he made outrageous comments and stuff like that. But I think he's one of those guys that you'll either love him or you'll hate him, because people obviously kind of watch what he did as a Liverpool player and a Bolton player, and like the spitting incidents and all these things. So people will always kind of look at him for that. I look at him and his spell at Rangers, I think he did a job. You know, he managed to get us a couple of goals. I think his European goal, was it Lisbon? Was it he scored against? Was it Sporting Lisbon?
Yes.
Sporting Lisbon.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys. It's just
he's got to score that, like you're just talking about on there. Elhad's Jeff edge of the box.
he was basically a backup. I mean, he was basically a backup to come on and to do a job for the team. But I mean, that ball that you're talking about there, that should have been a third goal, because he puts it on a plate. I mean, Foster spreads his body well.
Aye.
You know, you should be good enough to tuck that away. But
was it Vice, wasn't it? It was Vice that should have scored.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like, just one of those guys, he'll be remembered for like mocking Scott Brown, which for a lot of fans, Rangers fans enjoy mocking Scott Brown, let's be honest.
That was enough, wasn't it?
But at the end of the day, what was more important was that we were successful, that we won.
Free kick. That's a free kick, and he gets booked for diving.
Yeah, because of who he is. So that was the thing about here. And he was known for doing things, and referees were looking for it. It's a bit like Alfie for a period there, where like Alfie was just like public enemy number one. He was getting booked for things, sent off for things that other players weren't.
Well, Ryan Jack was the same when he came to Rangers.
Yeah, very much so.
Exactly the same. I mean, Ryan Jack, never, I don't think he ever got sent off for Aberdeen. Came to Rangers, he got sent off every time he was on the park.
Just on Ryan Jack, very, very quickly, gents. Just very, very quickly on Ryan Jack. He was phenomenal for Scotland against Serbia, by the way. I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
He was in what I said, didn't see the first half, but he was from what I saw. I mean, that's my only thing with international football. I want our players to play well and get back uninjured. You know what I mean? And that's as far as it goes for me.
Yeah, look, I think that's fair, because I think that's how things have changed. Like, sort of when I grew up, a lot of people were excited when Scotland played. I mean, I think one of my kind of like sort of earlier memories was when Scotland played Germany at Ibrox. I can't remember when it was exactly, but I think we get beat 1-0. But I remember like being excited about going to the game. But like as Wilf says, like it starts to drift. You know, like the more you go and watch Rangers, it's not that you don't care about Scotland, but you just don't have the same passion for watching the games. It's like when Rangers are playing, you're excited, you're ready to go, you're down at the...
he's got to fucking score that, hasn't he?
So all
I forgot about that chance.
You know, to the fore, and I think that's what's changed in recent years. The Tartan Army's become a lot more guys that are out with the Rangers support. It seems like it's moved like up towards like Aberdeen and Dundee, and like, you know, that seems to be like the hardcore element of the Tartan Army. But I mean, see, back in the day, like the Tartan Army had a hell of a lot of Rangers fans. Especially when they were like trips down to Wembley.
Yeah.
You know,
but, I mean, back in the day, the Tartan Army wasn't really the Tartan Army. It was just the Scotland support.
Aye.
You know, they seem to be an organised thing now. They've got spokesmen and magazines and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's guys that support teams that don't get to Europe, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said, Martin, you know, going to Europe's an expensive business. Right? It's an expensive hobby. So you sometimes got to just, a lot of guys, they've got to choose, well, did they go and watch the club side that they're invested in every week?
Yeah.
Or do they spend the, whatever, 30, 40 quid to go and watch a Scotland game? And a lot of guys will choose to go and watch the club side because it's what they do every week.
Well, there's easy getting sent off.
Yeah.
Right, see that, right, for yous. I know it might be construed as last man or whatever, right, and it's a horrible tackle, but is that sending off?
Well, it's cynical.
It's cynical. No, listen, I get it's cynical, right, and I get where he's done it. But if that was a Rangers player, would you be happy for him getting sent off there?
You'd never be happy that he's sent off, but you can understand why he sent him off. I mean, back then, if I had been a Rangers player, I'd have been raging.
Yeah.
And I know that. I look at it totally different now. That if something happens, I would think, right, okay, like if somebody gets a penalty against us, for example, it doesn't happen often, but if we give away a penalty, my first thought is, well, would I want that? If it's at the other end, do I want that? And if the answer is yes, then it's a penalty.
No, it's just the only reason I ask is because he's so far away from goal you
Doesn't
know.
matter.
But I think with somebody like Vice was that quick though. See if he got beyond Azagiri, he was likely going to like sort of get through into the penalty box and get a shot off. And I think that's what the referee's seen.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing you probably wouldn't get sent off for now because it's
No,
not a goal scoring opportunity because it's so far out.
yeah. Oh, there's a very young Willie Collum there. Did you see him as fourth official?
Yeah.
He was probably dying to give a penalty there. Willie's, that's a penalty. Tell him it's a penalty.
Even in the 31st minute of extra time, Wolf, and they've just had a man sent off. Are you still nervous?
Oh, aye.
Because they've had that chance, just had that chance for Hooper that they really should have scored.
I should have done. You know, you would think, right? Okay, it's maybe our day, and then you go as a final whistle, so it was our day. You know, no matter how long they're playing, until the whistle goes, if you roll that goal up, there's always a chance it could just anything could a wee ricochet, anything could
absolutely
drop you right in it.
Yep. No, you're so right, mate. You're so right.
Aye, and then listen, I'm not at the final. Have you had the final whistle, Wolf?
Yeah.
Have you had the final whistle? I haven't.
Look up, right.
I've got a picture of Yelovich having a wee cheeky smile on his face. But actually, I wanted to ask you two just before we go, because obviously I don't know how we've managed to get nearly 2.5 hours of conversation out of this, by the way. But very last thing I'm going to ask you is the fractured relationship between Rangers fans in Scotland. Can it be repaired, and will it be repaired?
For me personally, I think if it does, it's going to take a long time. I think probably beyond the next 5-10 years, because it feels like as a support there's no trust with the SFA. There's very little trust with Steve Clarke, because I mean the last thing Steve Clarke did was make a bit of a cheeky comment to Rangers fans as they left the stadium,
which was stupid.
So at the end of the day, like, you know, people don't forget things like that, especially as a football fan. See when somebody mocks you or says something to you at a game, or if you get players trying to antagonise your away support, you don't forget that. You know, that never ever goes out of your mind. Like, you remember it 100 times over. So, from Steve Clarke's point of view, I mean, I'm sure Steve Clarke couldn't really give a fly, to be honest, but like, from a Rangers fan's point of view, things like that will always be in the back of your mind. So if Steve Clarke was to be sacked or he left, it wouldn't really make you any less happy or emotional kind of thing, you know. But like, in terms of the SFA, no, I think it's going to take a long time for Rangers fans to ever feel comfortable with the people that run the game in this country.
What about yourself, Wolf?
I agree 100% with that. It's going to need serious regime change.
Yeah.
And the clubs don't want that. I mean, they proved that when Rangers put the idea forward. Look, we want regime change, and they all said no. More or less, they all said no. So it's going to take. I mean, they need to stop doing stupid petty things like, you know, charging Steven Gerrard for stating the obvious and things like that.
I know.
You know, there's too many anomalies in what they do. Some people get away with doing this or saying that, and you know, others don't. It's not just with Rangers; it's just with other clubs, and
absolutely,
it can be repaired, but it's going to take a long time, and I think it won't be this generation.
Yeah, I totally agree.
At all, you know.
Well,
I mean, Scotland qualifying for tournaments will help.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
it will.
I mean, it's about winning. I mean, they wouldn't get me back on side. I mean, I didn't even go back to Scotland when Walter was a manager or when Alec McLeish was a manager, because of like you say, it's not Scotland, it's international football for me.
Yeah.
But listen, guys, we'll finish up. We'll finish up, but 2011 League Cup final, we can all agree, and both of you can jump in here, that it was a shite game, but another trophy to add to Walter Smith's massive collection. And it's always fantastic to win a cup, and it's even better to win it against your rivals.
Yeah, look, it always will be. Whenever you win a cup final against Celtic, it's always special as a supporter, as a player, as a manager. So yeah, I mean, from Walter's point of view, Walter will probably go down as the greatest ever manager of Rangers in my lifetime, unless Steven Gerrard has, you know, another 5 or 10 years at Rangers kind of thing. So yeah, I think Walter's definitely the top man, and what he's done for Rangers will never be forgotten by a lot of people.
I can't got to agree wholeheartedly with Willie there. I mean, it's just it's hard to believe that that's the last domestic cup competition that we won, major domestic cup competition that we won. And I mean, the League Cup in my lifetime, the League Cup's always been good to us. It's always been good to Rangers. Because I mean, during the 80s, when it was my formative years as a Rangers fan, we won it. We seem to win it all. We seem to win it every year. But we're in a final, we won it all the time, either against Celtic or against Aberdeen, or a couple of times against Dundee United. And we need to get back to. We just need to get back to winning it.
No, definitely. But listen, for everybody who watched live, thank you very much. Leave a like, and if you haven't already, subscribed. For people who aren't watching it live, leave a like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Wilf, Willie, mate, lads, sorry. Thanks for coming on, and I didn't expect us to get the kind of chat we've had tonight.
That's all right, mate. It was a pleasure.
No, I really enjoyed the chat. The game was a lot of rubbish, but really enjoyed the chat.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. Thank you for everybody watching, and we shall see you. I think it's going to be Friday, will be the Aberdeen preview. So thanks everyone for watching, and good night.
Cheers, guys.
Yes.